It's Monday. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Monday. It's crazy how they just keep happening, right? Like, what's the deal with you, calendar? Why do you keep repeating days? Welcome in, folks. I'm fresh off Twitter. Had my chocolate bar. Got my spicy water. Got my regular water. Got some Star Citizen Live. I'm ready to have a good little watch party with y'all. Talk about the absolute horror of cargo hauling and how it has ruined all the things. Hope you're having yourselves a lovely day, a lovely week, a lovely good old time for you in the Europes. A good Monday to you, and for you in the Americas, a good morning to you. Welcome in. What's on everybody's calendar for this week? What you got good schedules? Got good things going on? Happy to be here. Happy to be swell. Randolph, thanks for dropping in. Good luck on your streaming today. Appreciate you. Matt Sully, hello, dude. Toast gang. How you doing? Luna Maria, good to see you. Hope you're having a lovely day. Hope everything's going smoothly with you and the family and the new upcoming family. Flopalore 07's Matt Sully, my man. I'm going to say hi to you again because you deserve 2 this time. You know that? You had some good luck running hauling contracts last night. Everything worked smoothly. Only had time for 1 round trip, but had cargo going both directions, dude. When it takes that long, I do really hope it pays a good amount more, you know? Ooh. Echo, Toes Gang, first on the Twitch, dude. Vastin, look at you guys. Mods over here. Coming in on Twitch and making sure everybody knows what's up. It's the Toes. That's what's up. Good to see you both today. Thank you for dropping in. Zero, good to see you, dude. Sninzler, welcome in. Vargan, I see Sninzler taking advantage of that giveaway we still have going on for the Saber Peregrine. Should be ending this week, I believe, folks. Possibly next stream, if Mrs. Tomato will have it happen. We'll have to see. She is the overlord. She makes the good things happen. Good morning, Nomad. Welcome in. Here, bean does burn on the grill and no flies in our butter. The garden fly free for 30 years, Vass. And is that a ritual? Did you just cast a spell? Destroy, good to see you, dude. Starting off the week and get to listen in the truck while you drive. Are you driving for work? Are you commuting? You just going on a little road trip? Is it pleasure or is it business? What time is it over there, Hemp? Over here it is 6 o'clock in the evening. So we are about 8 hours ahead of you. That puts you at Central US time. Furiosa was pretty good. Love a good feminist action flick. Dude, Furiosa, I haven't seen that yet. Did enjoy Mad Max though, and I think Anya Taylor-Joy, I believe, is a great actress. I keep seeing gifs of that movie, but I haven't seen the actual movie yet. That's one we gotta watch, Mrs. T. Working hard, I'm working out this week. Had a movie and pizza night with the friend yesterday, and that's what you were watching. Okay, cool. If you see your rewards and you spent on the giveaway return to you, don't worry about it. That's just Anansi refunding tickets. Not abusing your position at all. Nomad, hey, thank you for the bits, my friend. Just cheered up 400 bits in the chat. I don't know what's going on, but Twitch keeps giving bits when people cheer bits. Thank you, Twitch. I don't know why you're doing that, but that's quite kind of you. Maybe it's the whole September thing. Not sure. She's despicable in Peaky Blinders, so she's great at her job. Wait, I didn't know she was in Peaky Blinders. Yeah, I did not know that. Echo with the 1 bit. Thank you. Now Twitch should be doing 0.1 bits, right? That's how that works. Good morning, Papa Gamer. File in, folks. File in. I'll give you a little minutes. We're not going to get started too early. Looks like everybody's a little sleepy today. So we'll take a cool moment before we get started on this Star Citizen Live. I want to talk about cargo, because, like, has it ruined us? Is the game over? Is it all gonna die now? I mean, despite just cargo obviously causing a whole bunch of hubbub in 3.24, now we're seeing, you know, changes to tractor beams that are also reinforcing a lot of people's unhappiness with the patch. I kind of want to go back. I feel like I never made a video that actually touched on the topic of, let's see, hold on, let me go to my YouTube channel real quick. I don't know if I ever made a video that like touched specifically on the topic of how the game was going to be changing and whether people would be unhappy about it or not. But man, I should have, because it's just wild that for the longest time, the longest absolute, the cargo exodus has killed the game. The longest time we were talking about how the game's going to change and like people are not going to be happy about it. And then now it's finally happening. And it feels like that's kind of like, I don't know, I feel disconnected from the fact that we used to talk about that. You know what I mean? I feel like this would have been one of the only videos where I brought that up. Let's see. Is there anything about cargo going on? I have one here about engineering. No, I'm sorry. This was the one about engineering. This was the first of the new thumbnail style. Holy crap, though. I don't think there was ever one about cargo. I'm interested in seeing, I guess we'll find out starting this week with Inside Star Citizen, how much people are going to not like engineering. We've already seen some whispers and murmurs about it after it came up earlier this year. But as we can see with cargo, this is, I think, one of the biggest things is like, they were talking about the cargo refactor since last August, right? They had Inside Star Citizens coming out about it. It wasn't until the patch actually came out that people started to get mad about it. So I wonder if the same thing's going to happen with engineering. They've been talking about it a while. We know it's going to shake the game up. We know it's going to be a detriment to a lot of the ways that people like to play. Soloing large ships, not really paying attention to the health of your ship. I'm guilty of that too. Not repairing, not, you know, covering your component health. How much is that really going to piss people off when it happens? Let's see. Tractor beams of the future. I wonder if this, like, how much detail did I get into this when it comes to the large cargo box stuff? It may be the case that your multi-tool isn't cut out for the job. Similarly, what you want to move may just be too big. Thus, the standalone tool exists. First visually introduced back in 2021, this tool was meant to be the actual tractor beam. If the multi-tool is your Swiss Army knife that allows the casual player to do a little bit of all the professions, this tool is your purpose-built specialty device that cargo haulers and deck crew can carry for any lifting needs. This tool won't be coming in Alpha 3.19, but it is getting close with a likely need for it when the next cargo refactor is released. Dude, that's insane. I was making videos for Alpha 3.19 back like a year and a half ago. At this point, there is no knowing where it will slot in terms of power. You remember this? Holy crap, raise your hand if you remember this. This was the Star Citizen drama for a week. The fact that they depicted this tractor beam holding an Aurora. Like, just like there's always something. Nomad, thank you for the bits. Appreciate you. Think it'll piss a lot of people off once the tediousness sets in? Probably. What are we going to talk about when the game is fixed and complete? What are we going to do with ourselves? Dude, it'll never be fixed. Don't worry. Cargo's not bad. With it comes changes that trading that affected both trading and pirating hard. Yeah, I mean, man, everything's going to feel bad until the game actually makes them all interact with each other. Heck, even eating mechanics feel terrible right now because eating sucks. It's not easy to do. Well, some people would say we just shouldn't have to eat. How different does your own voice sound to you? It used to sound a lot different as I've listened to it more and more over the years. I've gotten more used to it. But listening back to older videos like this is weird. It never gets normal. Abdi, hey dude. How you going? Proof cargo haulers are the masses of dumb supporting CIG's bad decisions. Yes, full support. All the way. Bad decisions, give me more of them. You never had a good movie without some bad decisions, right? Detox, my dude. How are you, man? I was watching some of your videos today, dude. Always good to, I guess you also, we just hit each other up every once in a while about stuff from videos. Good to see you in chat, my dude. How are you? Do I think Chad's team will be iterating on 3.24.1 and 2, or are they moving on to other gameplay? I don't know. Did he talk about it during Star Citizen Live at all? How are they bad when they were the plan all along? Hey, now, I'm not going to say that old plans are always good, but there's like, it's truly a phenomenon. And I think somebody needs to do a very big long-term study on it about how much information is just openly available about this game and how much it's just entirely and completely missed by most people until it actually ends up coming into the game. Like, I bet they could have had a document out there that said, you know what, when we get to 90% of this game being complete, we're just going to delete every single file and move along and take the money, and most people wouldn't know. Please do that video, dude. That's so much work. That's so much. I'm not a university professor. Somebody's got to be doing that for like a psychological PhD or something. You're excited to hear more about the large external station loading docks for huge ships they mentioned yesterday? Yeah, that's good stuff. It was bound to happen when they mentioned that they were doing it in Pyro. But I imagine this tool will more easily carry a 4, 8, and maybe even 16 SCU box. This is before we knew they were going to go up to 32 SCUs. Is it even on here? Like, I don't even think. I didn't know like what size boxes we were even going to get. It's so funny. Maybe even 16 SU. Shut up, idiot. Box, while the multi-tool attachment would handily lift a 1/8, 1, 2, and maybe 4 SCU box. Look at me, dude. The players would have hated me if I designed this game. Holy crap. I'm over here like, yeah, the small multi-tool can't even list more than a 4 SCU box. Remember that all values are based on lifting force, not weight. Weight will also depend on the specific material packed, so there will be quite a bit to consider for players who want to be the most efficient cargo haulers and packers, thus cargo hauling gameplay at its core. But we're getting distracted. You're wrong, Space Tomato Man. We just want to fly things from A to B. Come on now. We don't want to pack stuff. You're always talking about how 80% of backers at this point have never known the actual vision. And is that their fault or CIG's fault? The plan of a 15-year-old is the best way forward for a 25-year-old. Dude, when I was in middle school, I had everything figured out, okay? Can't trust me anymore. You gotta do one of those letters to yourself when you're in grade school to come and find later on when you're a grown adult. Be like, okay, scrap everything I've planned over the last 10 years. This is it. Messiah. Enjoyed the talk with A1 today, Detox. Thank you, dude. Appreciate you checking it out. Just a spare thought regarding cargo and thinking out loud. Why not designate by types of ship and SCU for them? Ship, but not sure if it could also be tied in for rep jobs. It's just a thought. Like specific cargo for certain types of ships? Someone needs to cover the gist of the vision for newcomers. Dude, the vision, like, you could just look up Star Citizen repair dock and people wouldn't believe it. Who's gonna look at this and believe this is actually what's gonna happen? Look at this, look at this, look at this, dude. There's like, you got thermal insulation agents, conductive agents, materials by the element. I mean, I guess this is kind of what Maelstrom is. They've talked about Maelstrom being. It's just like, there's all these documents that go over this stuff, and there's so freaking many of them. Like ship mass, for instance. They talk here about take only what fits, looking at ships proposed or current default loadouts and adding the specifics for each component which to the final mass generated by the steps above. So like the idea that the components you have in your ship are going to make differences on how your ship flies. there's just so much in here that, while yes, it's part of the vision, it can always change a little bit, you know? Like these kinds of things can, or one of my favorites. This is one of my absolute favorites. The drink maker, the mix master, an integral part of passenger transport to make sure that you are keeping your passengers happy. It's, yeah, it's a lot. But no, Tekna, like Tekna said, dude, a lot of the stuff that they did in these documents from like 2015, 2013, all these times, people would just call feature creep. Like, so do they avoid that and avoid the work and just not put it in, or do they put it in and deal with the amount of extra time it takes? How many times have you seen people say they should just stop developing the game and make it complete? Which, for starters, I don't know what that means, but like, stop adding new features and just make it stable. There are so many things in this game that we would just never get if that were the case. Like fuel mechanics, for instance, don't even work how they want them to work. It's, yeah, the development of this game is like just such a case study. It's so weird and crazy and ridiculous. The Mixmaster reminds you of when you thought this was going to be a sim that linked together a lot of mini games. Kind of, right? A little bit like that. Folks probably doubted physicalized cargo 2 degrees too, but here we are. Let's see. I think that's in this document. Commodities and units. So this was 2017. This was a little bit later than the other ones. But you've got, I mean, there's so many words here, man. Overloading a ship with more cargo is certainly something a lot of players have asked for, and it's something we're going to support. Because cargo will be able to be lifted and placed by hand, players won't need a cargo grid underneath them in order to place it, meaning they can release those commodities anywhere. The more you can carry, the more mass you're trying to move around, the more adverse your ship's efficiency is going to be. If you're exceeding mass recommendations with loose cargo just placed wherever you're going to throw out a ship's interior balance and place more strain on the thrusters at one side than the other. So this is like, this is something that I think they've kind of started implementing the mass of cargo actually changes the way your ship flies. Some people have said they've noticed that. I'm not sure if they have or not. Additionally, as we develop our physics for internal behavior, we're looking at room temperature, atmospherics, and other forces to act upon the player and when cargo isn't secure. These systems will act upon that as well. So that's like engineering that we'll talk about later this week. Yeah, so they had a lot written down for these kinds of things that it's worth going and reading about this stuff because it hints at a lot of what's going to be coming to the game. But today, we're going to listen to what they have to say in real time. I feel like there's 40 devs working on the game and 100 employees of the marketing team just making stuff up. There are mostly devs, it seems, still working on Squadron 42. But if you think there's 40 devs working on the game, then, I mean, that's your choice. I have nothing for that. I think salvaging was the biggest thing they recently added. Took a while, and it didn't end up, I think, meeting a lot of people's expectations, but it was a pretty big addition. Stopped caring about the vision a long time ago. First rule of game development is that ideas are easy and execution is hard. It's completely irrelevant what they've talked about 10 years ago. We should not even think about anything that isn't currently in the game. I think it is entirely relevant about what they've talked about 10 years ago because they're still doing it. Like the whole reason I was able to make, where is it? Where did that video just go? Where did it go? This video right here is because I was paying attention to what they said 10 years ago. And that video is a year and a half out, and it has now predicted a lot of what happened in 324. Same goes for a lot of this other stuff. Like, I wouldn't say take it as gospel every single word, but it certainly still defines a lot of the way they're trying to develop the game. You think they should match features to modern gameplay? Could use refinement, farming, and science? No longer spawn in our hangars and didn't need persistence then. Yeah, agreed. Your gripe about cargo elevators, the gap that allows boxes to drop to the nether. Dude. Yeah, boxes falling through the ramps is really annoying right now. People prefer stability over features. It's cool to have a bunch of things that they can do, but if they break constantly, nobody will want to play. Look at 313 or earlier with the server. Right, but like, in order for this game to have stability, they'd have to stop adding features. And if they stopped adding features, we just wouldn't get a game. Like, look at how happy people are for the MFDs that we're getting in 324.2. If they had stopped development, we wouldn't have those MFDs. We'd have whatever crappy bullshit we had before from 3.0. And the same goes for a lot of the other stuff in the game. They need to make the game actually good before they can just stop developing features and focus on the stability now. I have a video coming out at the end of this week about stability and server meshing, and I think that helps, but the idea of completely stopping development for stability sounds like a good recipe for killing the game, in my opinion. Some of the questions answered in this SCL have extra clarification on Spectrum and the Q&A. Okay. Good to know. I'll keep that up. Let's see. Dev tracker, right? Ought to have the dev tracker up. Man, where is the dev tracker now? There it is. For you, Star Citizen can't be complete till we have showering. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. New cargo is nice, but they really need to add physical inventories to the old ships. See, now that is the kind of hard talk about the stability of this game I can get behind. The old ships do not support enough of these new features. That's, ooh, yeah, speaking my language there. I hate that we can't pull components out of old ships. Dev time only for coffee. I get you. I hear you. All right. As you know, even though we're going to start this Star Citizen Live now, very rarely do we just go through the whole thing without talking. So whether you are watching this on YouTube afterwards, we'll probably cut out a lot of the chat. But if you're watching this live, we'll have a lot of conversation regarding this. We're going to talk about the Star Citizen Live cargoes and hangars Q&A, which is a lot of, I was just looking at the timestamps down here, a lot of questions asking for some clarification regarding how cargo and hangars will work. We also have the dev tracker here to look at some of the clarifications afterward on Spectrum. And of course, that's just my channel, but we'll also have videos, as you know, always. We could do some deep dives into some of the details they talk about. Really, this is just to talk about cargo hauling in general in Star Citizen. Has it killed the game? Exodus of players. The anti-box patch. Thank you for joining me if you're here live. Let's get into it, yeah? What happened to his beard?
Yeah, take it in.
What? I didn't know he even had a neck. I thought it was just all beard. I thought it was just like a head and then beard and then the rest of the body. Jared, what you doing?
Hi, everybody. It's enough of that. Welcome to Star Citizen Live Cargo and Hangers. I'm your host. Almost forgot the word host. Jared Huckabee. If you've never seen the Star Citizen Live,
his shirt sounds so crunchy.
before, it's where we take about an hour at the end of our week, invite one of our developers on the show, and chat about all kinds of stuff Star Citizen. Today's show is focused entirely on cargo and hangars, and any conversation related to cargo and hangars must involve Cargo Chad himself, Mr. Chad McKinney. Chad, how you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Cargo
Now,
Chad.
I thought we had agreed
Hair getting ever longer.
to both shave our beards for this.
We both agreed that you would shave your beard.
Is that what we agreed to?
Yeah, that's what I remember.
I should read my messages.
Are we gonna have now? Jared doesn't shave until 4.0 comes out. Can we start that? Can we do that? Can we make that a thing? If we tweet at him enough, will that make it real? I think it's real as long as there's enough people actually talking about it on the internet. Like it's more real than anything in real life. Chachi, good to see you, dude. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the chat, man. I hope your streams are going well these days. Can we get a shout out for the man? Moshfaratu, thank you for the sub. Said, I think they need to address the gap between 100-ish SCU cargo ships and the CAT or C2 in the very near future. Having to manually load and being unable to use your full grid on smaller ships can be painful. Good point. I mean, the CL is a good kind of gap there. I think the Constellation also sort of hits there. But yeah, something that's like 150 SCU of cargo storage would probably be good. Let's see. Let's see what they do.
More closely. No, as I can already see in the chat, no, I did not lose a bet or anything like this. The answer is I'm getting...
You lost a fight with a razor.
I lost a fight with a razor. Against...
Should see the other guy.
My better wishes and against my protestations on this very show for years and years and years, I am getting scanned for inclusion in one of the games next week. So...
What? Why do you say one of the games and not just Star Citizen? You gonna be in Squadron, dude? Is he gonna be a private? He's gonna make a little cameo in Squadron, be like a red shirt or something. That'd be fun.
That's what this is for. I've seen people wondering if it was for CitizenCon or for something.
Dude, if he is like a lieutenant, I guess we are a lieutenant in Squadron. If he was like a captain or something in the game, or a commander, or just somebody higher above us, I don't know if I could take orders from this guy. I've been watching him on YouTube too much for the last 8 years.
Some big marketing thing. Nope. It's just because they're like, hey, we're going to put you in the game. We're probably going to make you a janitor or something on the Bengal or something. I'm like, cool. I'll be a janitor on the Bengal. So that's what this is for. So.
Okay. Bengal confirmed.
Sorry, women and children, for the fright. This is what I actually look like. All right. So getting on with the show.
You're beautiful, man.
This is a Q&A show where we collect questions from you, the Star Citizen viewer, and pose them directly to Chad. We put up a thread up on Spectrum, which is our bespoke communication platform available on
From Chat to Chad.
If you haven't checked that out, check that out. It's your chance to submit questions and vote on which ones you want to see answered most. We selected the questions that were appropriate for Chad. Remember that no Star Citizen developer works on every single aspect of the game. So while there were many questions that I know folks were fervently wanting answered, we do have to find questions that are appropriate for our guests. That said, we did pick 4 or 5 that were still outside his mandate and went to Ian Leyland and Rick Porter to get some answers to those. So we did try to include some of those questions that we normally skip over for that. So we're trying to best of both worlds here. So Chad,
nice, dude.
Are you ready?
Always love a check-in with Ian.
No, but let's go.
Star Chad. Let's go,
so
dude.
The first question is a real easy one. Just a softball over the home plate. In the hangars and cargo SCL 4 months ago, it was said that it just missed the release and that you were really close. What the hell happened?
Okay, I feel like I need to... Wait, where was that video? This is a video.
You know, while it is disappointing to see it slip, you know, we are a bit off. We missed the target, but we're not so far off. It's not going to be like, 6 months from now or anything like this. So it's a bit disappointing that it missed the release, but we are really close.
So that was... I'm pretty sure it was almost 6 months, actually, from that.
Time is relative. No. So a few things on that. First is, when I said that, first off, I do regret using that exact terminology. But
just never give any kind of dates. Like, we're the worst. And by the worst, I mean the best. We always remember the dates. And they just continue to give them to us, and it's just not good fodder.
To be more serious, when I said that, that doesn't mean we're really close to going live, right? So I think that's one thing to consider, is that there's still the whole Avocado PTU live flow that we have to go through, and there's going to be a lead time to getting that out to players, like no matter what. So it wasn't like we were so close to just like pushing the button and being live. I probably could have been clear on that point.
Probably.
But on top of all that, there's a lot of things that happen even still, like, in between like what we would normally go, to live and doing further development. And in particular, some things that like ended up being especially problematic, like going long, was things in particular like ATC and transit. ATC and transit were two really critical parts of the whole hangar loop, of course, and the ship loading changes that we did with the ship loading platform. And unfortunately, like if you could ask me to pick two systems to not touch at all,
ATC in transit.
it would be ATC in transit.
Dude, ATC in transit is awful. Absolutely terrible. Every single time I'm gonna do a little one of these little things real quick where we kind of guess a month in a year way back in the day. Okay, I'm gonna go, let's say May of 2022 monthly report. There is a good chance we'll see something about ATC. I didn't put Star Citizen. Something about ATC or transit in that monthly report, because oh my gosh, it's terrible. Everything I hear about ATC and transit in this game is awful. It's always causing problems. It's all, let's see. Batch, patch, scratch. Okay, not ATC. And let's see if there was anything transit. Why? No, transition. So I missed it. Missed the mark. Couldn't do it. There were a lot of things that they've talked about in the past that have to do with ATC and transit. And like, if you've been following these monthly reports long enough, you've probably seen it yourself. It's just, there's always so much crap going on with these systems in the game, because of the way that they communicate and work. And here we go. Freaking June of 2022. What did I say? June of 2022. Last month, Vehicle Features worked on a variety of tasks to ready their system for the release of persistent streaming. This involved the ongoing refactor of the transit system. So they can simulate train networks when the carriages aren't spawned in on any machines. Like, it just always is coming up. They also validated Lorville's transit system to ensure it could be modified to fit the new city's layout. It's why I'm so excited about there being a rework to the transit system with server meshing, because it feels like that is one of those things that they have waited so long for an actual full rework of it. Just like a lot of other things like the mission system, until they could just sit down and be like, okay, we're wiping out this whole old system and we're putting in something that actually works. Because golly gee, it's just always coming up.
Because there are two older systems in the game. They're very complicated and they have lots of bugs historically. They're problem children for us as systems. So we knew coming into this that it was going to be a risk making changes to those systems. And what turned out to be, I think, more of a problem than we anticipated is that like once we started getting like wider testing, those systems really buckled underneath load in a way that we weren't really seeing internally. So we would, if anybody was on the PTU, for example, whenever we first started going out, it would be rocky. We put out some fixes, bring in more players, and then the thing would fall over. And as a developer, to make it more frustrating, fall over in a way where not only could we not reproduce it, but our own QA oftentimes couldn't easily reproduce it, or if they could, there wasn't like a coherent understanding about like what the fundamental cause was. So for those kinds of issues, we had to get creative as far as like understanding what was happening and like what to do to address.
I will quiet my own voice because I have boosted the YouTube volume as high as it will possibly go. So you guys can turn up your volume. I'll just turn myself down.
It because again, like we couldn't really consistently or fully understand it. So we put in a lot of diagnostics, a lot of telemetry, try things, and then eventually work towards a conclusion on what the actual fundamental problems were. On top of that, like I think there was kind of consideration with those systems about, right, we're going to go in here, we're going to make some big changes. We know we have to in order to make all of this hanger stuff work. But these are kind of older systems. Do we rewrite them? Do we, largely refactor them, or do we try to keep them largely intact, but with the smaller changes that we need, hopefully smaller changes that we need to get us out? We wanted to hit the release date sooner. So we made the call that we were not going to largely refactor or rewrite them for this release. In retrospect, I'm not sure, like if I could do it again, I would be interested to know, would it be longer actually if we just decided to just rewrite them or refactor them first? The good news is that we already are planning on doing just that. And in fact, transit is already in progress with the new version, which needed to happen anyways for server meshing and all this stuff. So that's good. And then ATC as well, we already have plans on how to rework it and to make it just fundamentally some of the problems at play here, because ATC as a system is so like centralized, and it keeps a lot of state internally in a very centralized place. But these systems are extremely complicated about how they deal with persistence and logging and streaming, and in particular tracking ship allocations in the hangars. So we would get bugs, for example, with like ships doubling up in hangars, etc. Like those things were really challenging the system, as well as like the doors not opening. Yeah. So like a lot of that stuff, I think we have a lot better idea about what to do about it as a system in the future. But this release, we made the call to try to, take the system that we had, just kind of like, get it working with the new direction, and then hopefully give us some more time without so much time pressure to make the right adjustments, like more fundamentally. It's a risk we took. It didn't turn out, I think, as we hoped, but sometimes that's how it goes. But there's a lot more things than that. Another thing was the mission system.
Before he continues to move on with that, I do want to say we were just talking about this before we started watching. The idea of stopping development, stopping features, and just working on stability. And this seems like one of those things, the transit system, the ATC system, even the mission system, as he's about to start talking about, these seem like the kind of things that split the gap between new features and stability. If you stop developing new features, then you're forced to stabilize what sounds like a broken system for the game right now, right? Going forward, you would never meet the MMO characteristics because server meshing wouldn't allow the game to expand very much. But if you ever, like a lot of people will say, stop the new features, stabilize the game, release it, and then expand. That would call for them to basically make server meshing after they've stabilized all this stuff. So we would end up running into the same problem again, right? Where these systems, the transit system, the AT system, would not really work that well, and then get to a point where they have to remake them for server meshing anyways. So it's these kinds of systems that I feel like are the things that hold this game back the most, because after they do refactor this stuff, then realistically they should be able to stop adding a ton of stuff. Not to say they ever will. We all know that won't happen. But I feel like these are really important points. The actual underlying systems that run the game, like ATC, transit, missions, heck, even like something like the economy probably, maybe, possibly might fit into this criteria as well.
It's a new mission system with a new delivery hookup for the delivery missions. First outing, right? There's a lot of new shaky things that we found with, in particular, the hookup from the freight elevators to the missions. There's just like a lot of loose ends, a lot of things, threads would get lost. We have this whole warehouse system that has to interact with the mission system. And there's just, again, a lot of these like rare, low repro issues that in these very fundamental places, actually, this is another point for ATC and transit. Like when you have a moderate, inconsistent bug in a system that's not as critical, it doesn't seem as bad. Not to say that, bugs are bad. Of course, we want the game to be stable, but whenever you have something that's like, let's say it happens 1% of the time or 0.1% of the time. Unfortunately, if that isn't a part of the game flow,
a critical
that's
system.
critical.
Yeah.
yeah, it's awful. It's unplayable, right? So we have to like take even more care with those systems to get them into a better place so the game is more playable because those bugs have an outsized effect. But beyond that, there was also, in particular, a lot of issues that we had with networking and serialization and the replication layer changes that were coming in preparation for server meshing. And I can just speak from my own personal experience debugging some of these things. There was some very complicated, hard to understand bugs that we had to work back to eventually being actually corruption in serialized data that was coming from some bugs in the replication layer, which we could not reproduce that again internally. And that was a wild one to figure out. It was very, very confusing, as you can imagine, because it's rare and it's random and like the data you get doesn't make sense. And you try to make sense of like how these things come together. But we got there. There were design and iteration changes. Some of them, we were pretty public about, like the item bank, but also tweaks to the freight elevator kiosk, changes to how the economy tuning works.
Oh, I hope he talks about the item bank
and stuff. So like, and to be fair, we were wanting the patch to be a complete package as much as we could. So given that we were already going late, we didn't entirely shy away from taking some of the time to like also like clean things up on the design side while we're also grappling with some of these harder engineering problems. And then like the final thing I'll say on it is we didn't want the whole schedule to shift. So we still have a lot of other goals. One of them obviously was the Atlas, but there's, things coming up, 4.0. We're obviously still trying to get, Squadron finished and out the door. And we didn't want to just take everything and just like take everyone, focus entirely on this release, get this release out the door and have our whole schedule change for the whole company.
God, I hope he talks about the hover trolleys in this.
Like, there was a lot of people who needed to move on to 4.0 goals or whatever. And so it meant that we needed to keep like the core people that were working on the mainline features on the release, but we didn't have the full force of the company to just close that one specific patch out. We could have, but like I said, it would have, caused problems for our other goals otherwise. So you kind of in total, there's a lot of things that I feel like I've learned from, and I hope in the future it gives us a better like framework for how to deal with something this complex. And then, one last thing I'll say is I think there's also just a fundamental problem with the whole conceit of having this many fundamental things in one patch,
right?
Where I think if I would do it again, I would slice it differently and try to do the persistent and instance hangers in their own patch first, and then layer on top all this other stuff. We wanted them to come together as an experience. And I understand, that might have been actually kind of a weird thing for the players to go through, to have like this one particular aspect of that feature set come in without the things that make sense. But from a development perspective, it would have allowed us to harden on the aspects of it that were in particular thorny and right, more of an engineering challenge, and then get that hardened and stable so that we give that to the players, and then layer on top of that all this other stuff around it. But doing it all together, I think, really challenged us when some of the, like I said, some of the risks didn't break in our favor.
Yeah, you bring up several good points. And for those of you,
they had to take 2 ISCs to talk about the features coming in. They should have taken 2 patches to deliver them. There you go. So easy math equation.
In the chat are like, wow, if this was an easy question, I hate to see a hard one. I was being facetious.
Yeah,
this
that was not an easy question.
Lots of times when we talk about a tier 0 feature or whatever, it's we do that thing that Chad was talking about. You can basically, for anything, you can basically do one of 2 courses of action. One, you can split them up into several smaller things, or 2, you can try to push out a suite of stuff. And we attempted to do this suite of stuff for all of this. It was originally attached to an even bigger suite of stuff and everything that was 323. When we've done...
Dude, yeah, imagine if they had tried to put all this stuff in 323. God, that was just never gonna happen. Why even say it?
Separation in the past. It's a little more stable and certain stuff, certainly, but that's when you tend to see things like, well, I don't understand why this is like this, and I don't understand like this and like this, and we just have to go, well, that's because we didn't give you the second part and the third part and the fourth part, and when you get the second part and the third part and fourth part, that first part will make more sense. And we try to explain that, but when you play the game and you see 1/4 of an experience, you're right when you say this doesn't make any sense. It doesn't, because it's 1/4 of this overall thing. And when you see things like the persistent hangers now and where we're going with item placement and the item banks and all this stuff like that, this is still just sections of this thing that we'll continue to build out later and later. And you could expect to hear more about that at a big event that's coming up in a few weeks. How many weeks? Don't tell me.
Halloween?
But yeah, so we tried to do this nice package thing, and
Wait,
yeah,
what is he saying you'll hear about at Halloween?
experience. You're right when you say this doesn't make any sense. It doesn't, because it's 1/4 of this overall thing. And when you see things like the persistent hangers now and where we're going with item placement and the item banks and all this stuff like that, this is still just sections of this thing that we'll continue to build out later and later. And you could expect to hear more about that at a big event that's coming up.
Okay, so they're gonna talk more about like item placement and banks and stuff like that at Halloween. I get you.
But yeah, so we tried to do this nice package thing, and
No, you guys are silly. He's talking about Halloween. Sheesh.
yeah, you never know when you start these things. You never know whether the package approach is going to be the right one, or the slicing it up into a bunch of different sections is going to be the right one. In hindsight's always 2020. But yeah, it was a
Hindsight's 42, Jared.
I really appreciate, and I want to hammer home the part, you and your team basically there on an island by yourself. And then, yeah, you had help from here and there, but for the most part, the full resources of the company were not there to help you. They all had to stay on other things. They all just, to keep the progress on 4.0 going, and the stuff that's, beyond, going. So it's I appreciate the work you put in, and I think, if I can speak for the community, they all appreciate that you guys. We started talking about this. We first talked about this in ISC in October of last year. That's how long.
Yes. And I've been thinking about it a lot longer than that.
Yeah,
too, so.
yeah. Your small team out there in LA and Montreal.
We have all been thinking about this for quite a long time. Okay, maybe not all of us, as we've seen from the reaction to this, but a lot of us have been thinking about this for far too long for any healthy human being.
Montreal has been on this for more than a year and stuff like this. And I hope we all appreciate the folks watching at home and myself, that that your dedication of staying with this and sticking with this and getting it resolved, or getting as resolved as you can before the 3.24 release. And
thank you very much. Aaliyah and Jotin, good to see y'all in chat. Thank you for the subs. Good old September kind of subs. Thanks for gifting out 5 subs to the community. Enjoy those, folks. Exclusive videos coming out soon-ish. We'll be talking about gold standard ships this time.
All right. What happened with the item drawer change? Let's just get the two big ones out of the way, man.
Yeah.
What I hope to hear him say is, we wanted to ship inventory with parity to the freight elevators, but turns out the inventory needs more than just a screen of items. So we took it back and we're working on it to push it forward again. Please just say that.
It'll be easier after this.
I mean, to me, it's this one. It's not like a challenging question. It's gone on a bit of an arc, and I don't think that arc is completely finished. What's funny about that arc is we've kind of ended up where we started, actually, because like in the original proposal for the item bank, it works like it does now, actually, which is like it's the personal inventory UI, and really like the item bank is more of like an interaction point to trigger that UI. And the reason to understand why that makes sense is because to think about like what you're doing at the item bank. What you're doing really is we're trying to make it easier to get things that make sense from like a FPS player perspective, right? So if you want to get meta pins, you want to get armor, a weapon, these kinds of smaller items, which are often equipment, we want to make that intuitive and easy and quick, frictionless. The personal inventory UI makes sense for that because it has the paper doll view where you can pull things over and like kind of very more tangibly interact with the player and more quickly equip and unequip, swap things out, etc. However, the personal inventory UI, I think, everyone that's played the game knows it's not perfect, and there's things that we have long wanted to do about it. And in fact, for this release, it was one of the things that we hoped that we could get to, but we didn't have the time to. We're still going to come back to making improvements to that UI. So for that reason, we had some internal discussion on iterating on it and looking at it. And after we had gotten the freight elevator kiosk UI to a pretty good place, I think people saw before that we originally had this more 3D based UI on the left-hand side of the freight elevator kiosk, which we may come back to at some point with some rethinking. But when we went,
I wonder if I have that. I do remember they had like a different kind of UI at first for that. Let's see if we can find that, because it did look quite different. What would that? Just search UI and see if that comes up. Oh boy, this is a lot of stuff came up. Oh, it's not that recent. It would have been inventory, maybe. No, I don't think I would have it actually. Freight elevator. Ah, here we go. Yeah, so this is what it originally looked like. And I think they kind of had it like, I think it was meant to be you could identify where in the 3D volume of your freight elevator things would be, which isn't really that important, I think. I mean, unless you're really, I guess if you were getting like hundreds of boxes of something and you wanted to load something first, you wouldn't want that to load in the back. But this is what the inventory looked like at first when they were starting to do the freight elevator stuff he's talking about.
To the more like kind of straightforward like grid view, and then added certain things like search and better filtering. That experience started to develop in a way that had some functionality advantages over the personal inventory UI. So we had some discussions internally and decided that we would try moving it over to use just the freight elevator kiosk UI rather than the personal inventory UI. And there was trade-offs, of course. So like some of the like faster, tangible, easier kind of changes are gone, but you have other things like search and filtering that are better. And after giving it to y'all and collecting a lot of feedback and internally, we had to make a call. It was one of these things where there was very strong voices actually on like kind of both ends of it. So I think no matter what,
laughing?
Some people, it actually, I just went to a Bar Citizen in Seattle.
Oh, because of our reaction after they gave it to us. We just like completely clobbered it.
And there's like someone would say, man, I'm so happy you made that change. And somebody else would be like, why don't you bring back the freight elevator kiosk UI and the item bank? But I think the answer is going to be, we're going to probably keep it like it is now, but bring over some of the things from the freight elevator kiosk UI, like the search functionality, to make that a better experience itself. So both of them are, they are better user interfaces and UXs in general.
And yes, folks who are in the chat watching, who've done the math, it is 8 o'clock in the morning for Cargo Chat.
Yes.
He woke up extra early on a Friday morning in order to do this. So
Cargo Chad,
be kind. You can talk about how messed up my face is all you want.
I do not understand why we don't just go back to the PMA from Mobiglass and put it in the inventories, the physicalized inventory item banks. Like that works. It doesn't break your point of reference. You're still in first person. You can see your whole body. You can see all your items. You can see the stats of those items. Like what would miss with that? What would be wrong with that?
But let Chad wake up for a little bit. He's doing great. All right, so we got a couple questions here about the hangar itself. So these are the ones that we ended up going to Ian and Rick. These are the design of the physical hangar and the layout and stuff is not typically questions that would work for Chad, you know, as a programmer and engineer and stuff. But these were important. They were highly voted up. We had access to Rick Porter.
Technically, it'd be backward progress because it'd be going back to something they already did.
And Ian, so we went and got the answers for them. So the first question here is, are we going to have more room to park ships and vehicles on the sides of our hangars? The pads are big enough, but the pavement is tiny compared to the rest. There was that question. There was, are there any plans to add side rooms to players' persistent hangars for things such as HABs, fire,
Gotta have that side room, huh?
modification facilities, or even just a large room with a cargo grid where players can customize as they see fit? And can you get rid of the garage in our hangars so we can just set up our furniture better? Too many random cables and boxes lying around. Can you clean up all that garbage that's along the sides? I'm merging all these together because the answer to all of these are sort of the same thing. These are the very first. Okay, well, I need to rephrase that. From a player perspective, which is you. I think these are probably we were trying to figure out before the show whether these are the fourth version or the fifth versions of hangars that you've seen. There were two versions made by our partners at Behavior way back in the early days.
Whoa.
and then we attempted a first version, which is what you had before, and then there's this. So I think this is the second version that CIG has made. This is the fourth version of hangars and stuff that you guys have seen. And not all of the features, not all of the intention that we wanted to get in there is in there. I'm going to read these notes from directly from Ian and Rick here. So these are just their words. We plan to add garage modules. So we don't intend to expand the pavement, but there should be more room for vehicles when you could basically add on modules and expand the hangars to the left and right and to the front and back and there's different sections. The plan is for personal hangars to be able to be customized and expanded in the future with the addition of these hangar modules. The exact list of modules are still being defined at this point, which so I'm not going to be able to give you a list of whether it's a firing range or something like that. But you will be able to modify your hangars to certain extents and expand them out in other directions and stuff so that you can bring vehicles out and kind of store them off to the side. You don't have to use the ship elevator for bringing all your ground vehicles and stuff. Or
This is really dependent on the idea that we can have our personal hangar anywhere. I think for a lot of people right now you can only have it on the planet you spawn on, but I do think that in the future you can just have your this will apply to any hangar as long as you own it. I don't know about rentals. I don't know how they're going to do all of that. I think a big part of this game, strategies of this game, and also money sinks should be that they allow us to buy hangars on space stations and planets and all this stuff. But you have to pay upkeep for that hangar, you know? So you could have as many hangars as you want, but you have to continuously send money to that hangar to make sure that it's maintained and owned and blah, blah, blah. Then you can have certain loadouts in certain hangars, certain ships and vehicles and certain systems, and it also provides for a pretty good credit sink to help spur the economy.
Or just your smaller fighters and stuff off to the side. And as far as cleaning up the garbage around the end, we've already done multiple passes for the base hangar OCs, so we're listening to the community and moving in the right direction. That's Ian speaking there. We want to split the data for instance hangars and personal hangars separately so that we can completely remove everything in the personal hangars while still leaving some form of dressing and world building in the instance hangars. So what this means is that, as we've talked about before, you have your home location, and then you have the instance hangars that you'll get at every other location when you go there. For those, right now, those are using the same OC. So when you remove the dressing from one, you remove the dressing from all of them. We want to split those into two different object containers so that the instance hangars that you get at every other space station or whatever, those can stay dressed and look good and everything. But your personal hangars, the ones that get assigned to you.
If you can't tell me that you didn't catch that I was talking about the future there when I said now versus later, right? Like I literally said, in the future, you'll be able to own hangars anywhere, and credit sinks could help spur the economy. I couldn't possibly be talking about the economy now, right? If I'm talking about the future. Come on, man.
To you at your home location when you log in, those will be completely empty and you'll be able to decorate those to your heart's content. That is our intention there. No timeline on when that's going to come. And then, yeah, as far as the, that was it. Oh, and then, I'm sorry, one more question on that. You're just going to listen to me for a little bit, because these are answers from Ian and Rick, so I'm going to give Chad a little break since Chad did really good in those first two questions. The freight elevators are positioned a bit awkwardly in the hangars for loading and unloading in relation to the ship pad where you land. A lot of the hangar ramps are in the back, and the freight elevators off to the side. Has the team considered moving the elevator to accommodate these? This goes back to the same hangar modules. So of the hangar modules will also be where you place the freight elevator and stuff. So basically when the customization comes in, we anticipate you being able to move the freight elevator to wherever you need it for your particular ship.
Yeah, okay. So like, given something like that, you have to be able to get different hangars in different places, right? It would almost be a waste to just limit that to a planet, because there's so much more stuff you would do from a space station hangar than from a planetary hangar. So I wish that he said that here just as like confirmation, but I assume that we'll be able to own hangars in space stations at some point and be able to customize those instead of our planetary ones. But that's great that there'll be modules. That's good stuff. I think Morph did a video that kind of talked about that being an idea. Glad they're doing that.
Last one in this melange of questions here that were not necessarily for Chad, but were really important that we wanted to get answers to. Are there plans for the station cargo decks to play a role in cargo hauling and logistics gameplay? Folks might remember we added cargo decks to space stations 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Dude, that was like 4 years ago. That was like the worst thing that they have ever added to this game. Holy crap, let's go take a look-see about when that was. Oh my gosh. What a terrible addition to Star Citizen that was. That, like, I mean, Star Citizen cargo decks, that was, you could tell that they made that when they had different plans for this game, or not even different plans for the game, just different plans for the flow of cargo hauling. And they threw this in, and it was like, okay, so how does this work exactly? Let's see if we can find the place where they're talking about this a lot, because this is just...
You should see that they hold up pretty well to those cargo modules. And I would say that the cargo modules themselves on the exterior are super fun to fly through, and that was on purpose. So the player accesses the cargo deck from an elevator, and essentially they come out of an elevator into the cargo space. It's not a super huge space, the cargo deck, but it does give you that impression of a really large scale sort of warehouse and the work going on around you.
For us in audio, we achieve a sense of life.
This was like when it felt like they were going to have a central location for everyone to do the cargo hauling from. Like you would come here and you'd order your cargo, and then it would get delivered through this place to your elevator itself. I never have understood why. I guess maybe this is just a design decision, but it made sense for me that all of the things that were mission or cargo related in terms of transport were from this place. And they had specific hangars that you had to fly to in order to take part in the cargo hauling stuff. But these just got completely forgotten. And I think a big part of it was like these were planned for the game that was going to happen if server meshing actually landed around this time when they thought it would, and it just did not. And so these got left behind in terms of design.
More sort of utilitarian or workman-like supplies as well.
I think the team did a great job in getting the look and feel right on the cargo decks, from the exterior and as well as interior. That's really our first step into it, and then as we go on, this allows us to build on the foundation for future patches, whether that be regarding missions, and their tie into the corporations and you building reputation with them, or for basically side ventures. If you're a mercenary or you're a pirate and you want to go and attack these haulers.
Imagine him saying the team got it wrong. They did terribly.
Really working on our guild system and basically which will relate to as perks or specific missions or gifts associated with that career that you've chosen. So I hope everybody sees this as such an important milestone as I do in our journey on building out these decks and really fleshing out the universe.
They came at the same time as refinery decks, and refinery decks got used. I mean, yeah, it's barely used, very, very lightly used. I mean, they were like, go and press a button and you can refine these goods. But compared to the cargo decks, man, it was like, why? Where were they? I don't even, here they are, 311. And you could see that, like, they were, let's see, facilities within rest stops where players can handle all their cargo needs, from dropping off and picking up, buying new cargo equipment, and taking on cargo-related missions. We could do the first two. There are missions that stop and end here with the boxes, and there are goods you can buy, but not really much when it comes to actual cargo stuff, which was annoying. Now, I will let you listen to that part again because I'm going to go to the bathroom when we catch back up. I will be right back.
The elevator to accommodate these. This goes back to the same hangar modules. So of the hangar modules will also be where you place the freight elevator and stuff. So basically when the customization comes in, we anticipate you being able to move the freight elevator to wherever you need it for your particular ship. And then the last one in this melange of questions here that were not necessarily for Chad, but were really important that we wanted to get answers to. Are there plans for the station cargo decks to play a role in cargo hauling and logistics gameplay? Folks might remember we added cargo decks to space stations 2 years ago, 3 years ago? No, it's about. These need a significant rework. They were built with an intention and a design philosophy that existed back then. We've since evolved our thinking on how these things should work, so they will need to basically a rework to incorporate them into the current version of cargo gameplay that Chad and his team have created, have gone out in 3 of 24, and will continue to iterate in subsequent patches.
They still will be using them, which is nice.
So yes, there are plans. We can't tell you what they are just yet because they're still at a point where they're too likely to change between.
They don't know yet. I think it would make a ton of sense for those to be the places where we actually get our cargo missions from. And then our own freight elevators are for our own cargo commodity trading and stuff. Or maybe past a certain SCU amount or something. Like a rest stop should have, when you get to a place in real life, you can carry some boxes out the front door if you don't have much, but then you go around to the back to like the shipping yard if you've got to load a lot of stuff. And that seems like what the cargo decks would be.
Now and the time where they're implemented, but when we get closer to,
could be used for player-to-player trading too. That's a good call.
Going to be implemented, we will share that information with you. And that's me speaking for Ian and Rick Porter, the portion of our SCL. Chad, did you enjoy your break?
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Okay, back to Chad. The Atlas, which is the new hotness that's been revealed. Over
Lobster.
In PTU. Has a magnificent tractor beam that is making every other tractor beam look like turd sandwich from a can. Will you implement a mode switch for tractor beams to give functionality like the Atlas has to the multi-tool or dedicated tractor beams so that there's more parity between the three? Or is this something that's exclusively to the Atlas?
For the moment, it's exclusive to the Atlas. There is some discussion internally about like maybe doing that. Nothing confirmed. I feel like that there's some benefit to having it, having there be some diversity in the cinematic universe of tractor beaming as far as like functionality, to differentiate the advantages and disadvantages of certain things. For the moment, we're leaving it as is, but that could change.
I think as we've illustrated, that can change with feedback and as we get more experience.
I would appreciate a more in-depth answer about why there needs to be a significant difference between the way tractor beams work. To be honest, I was thinking that the way this would work would be something like that would use the same size tractor beam as a small ship. So every time they add a different exosuit, whatever function that exosuit has uses the same size of its utility item as a small ship. So you get a cargo-focused exosuit, it uses a size 1 tractor beam for ships. You get a salvage-focused exosuit, it uses the small salvage laser from the Vulture. You get a combat-focused exosuit, it could use a size 1 weapon. I was hoping that that's the way that it would work. Weird that it has different function for the tractor beam anyways.
And so we do more analytics. We see how people are using it. We do always. There will always be some distinction, though. You want the handheld for boxes of this size, and the larger weapons for the medium boxes, and the Atlas for the larger box. Atlas and the ship tractor beams for the larger boxes and stuff.
Right. So why not have that tractor beam be the same as the ship ones? I don't get that.
But yeah, when he says no plans right now, that's just what that means. No plans right now. But if you followed Star Citizen
next week, right?
If you followed Star Citizen for any period of time.
Look at the item bank, right? Like we take feedback seriously, so we'll figure out what makes sense for the game, but like my understanding as far as like what we're doing right now with all this is it's just going to be the way that it is.
Yeah. So that's Cargo Chad and me saying, make your points, share your point of view, make your solid, considered arguments, not just the pitchfork stuff. Our history is replete with dozens and dozens of examples where we've heard what you said and adjusted these things. So if you feel strongly about it, continue to feel strongly about it, continue to share that, and we'll see what the plan is later.
I only have a regular size fork.
Will we be, so in the Sitcon goodie pack, by the way, there's a Sitcon goodie pack. I think it might be available now. I don't know. I'm not in that part of marketing, so I don't know. But I think in the Sitcon goodie pack, there were beds. We sold beds in the goodie pack?
Even this guy's surprised.
This question is asking if we'll be able to log in or out of our hangars moving forward with these beds that are in the Sitcon pack.
Ooh. Let's talk about the bed mechanic.
When you get it, I don't think so, but look, I'll say this. We plan on, and as I've said before about bed logging, we're definitely going to work more on bed logging, and we're going to work more on logging in and out. And
I don't think they want to talk about bed logging. I think that makes them a little nervous.
The things in particular that we're going to work on is logging in and out of hangars specifically. We want to support that. That's something that we've already been working on to some extent on the technical side, but there's still more work to go there. I don't want to say that when you get this particular thing, a certain feature is going to be supported in the next release, though. So, like, as far as that goes, like, I don't plan on that being a supported thing by then, but logging in and out of hangars and bed logging is going to be developed further, is what I'll say.
You said a lot of words. I want to get this very concise. You're telling us that at some point, I'm not saying the next release, but at some point you will be able to log in and out from your hangars.
Yes, 100%. That's definitely a thing that we're going to support.
Because my least favorite thing in the world is having to wake up in the hab and go to the hangar. So that would be lovely. Thank you, Chad. That's not my least favorite thing in the world. David's my least favorite thing in the world. He just did a Yelp. It was like a 1950s like a Scream Queen. Like, what work is being done to stop our hangar deco from bouncing around so that we can make our hangars the way they are shown in ISC? We actually answered this last week with Benoit.
Dude,
it's here because I want to refer people back to Benoit.
Bed logging is like one of those things that I don't think they want to talk about because they're still figuring out the design of how they want it to work. Because they're no longer sticking to the idea that just beds are where you can log out and on, right? He literally just said we're working on getting it so that you guys can log out and in at hangars. So I think that they've got a lot of difficult questions to answer when it comes to ship designs and stuff like that and bed logging. I know they've said that beds will still give you buffs, but there's going to be so many complications, I think, allowing people to log out and in anywhere they want. And now they've been on camera saying they're going to allow that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Are they going to let other people log in and out wherever they want? Like, can you then fly a Pisces into a Javelin and your whole org logs in on that Pisces? How would they limit that? The whole limiting where people could log in and out thing made sense when you couldn't just transport your log points wherever you wanted on ships. I don't know how that's going to work. And so it feels like they kind of tend to stay away from talking about that right now. If you can log out of your hangar, what's the point to your hab outside of customization? I think it probably will just become mostly about customization. And that's mainly it. And having a safe place to log out, I guess. Like when we have missions that take place in cities, like local missions that you can run when you're in the city areas, then you have a very safe, close place to you. You don't have to go back to your ship to log out, but yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I always thought that they should just allow us to craft or buy small bed cots that you could carry around in your inventory, and that's your log off and on point. And if you don't have one, you're out of luck. If you do, then good job, you planned well. But we'll have to see what their idea is for logging in and out now.
Basically, it is not a feature issue. It is a matter of physics. Physics is one of the largest performance hits to the server. So that is basically it, trying to negotiate the physics of all those items placed on other items. As server performance improves, as server meshing provides us the benefits to server performance that we all hope it will, and stuff like this, that problem will become less and less severe as it is, and then we'll be able to go in and find the individual edge cases that cause it here and there and there. But basically, it's one of those things. It's literally one of those things where it works on my computer, and then you put it up on a server with 100 people, and it starts flopping around. Which is why it looks one way on ISC, and it looks another way in live. We show the intention of the feature and how it's supposed to work, and it is basically a performance-related error that's causing it in the servers right now. So as we continue to optimize, we continue to improve performance, that will resolve most of those issues, and then we can go in and do the edge cases.
I haven't even tried hangar customization yet.
In the 324 PTU, you were originally able to add 1 SCU cargo mission boxes into larger 8 SCU boxes for transport. That was really nice, by the way. This has since been removed since launch. I hate you, Chad. Any plans to bring this back?
Wait, what? Sorry.
SCU boxes for transport. That was really nice, by the way. This has since been removed since launch. I hate you, Chad. Any plans to bring this back?
That's a good question. It's more that there were some issues on the delivery side. We needed more sophisticated logic to handle the freight elevator delivering nested contents for delivery. So we rolled that back because we were having some issues having that work like consistently. But it is a thing that like we've talked about with the mission team, and I think at some point we'll probably bring it back. But for the moment, it's more of just, it's one of the things we had to like give up on in order to get the release out the door.
Okay. Currently in Live 324.
Yes, being able to have a cargo grid anywhere, like if you set down a box, that box creates a cargo grid or something like that, would be fantastic. Why the heck did this monitor just turn? Dude, this is such a stupid monitor. Oh my God. So yeah, I just... What are you doing?
When we call our ships while we are in a party member's hangar, our ships spawn in our personal hangar instead of the party member's hangar. Will that change in the future?
For sure. This is another one of those things where we had to, make some calls as far as like what we were going to try to deliver on this release. And if people saw like the very early, actually, I'm not sure this part of it got to Avocati or not, but at one point we actually had a drop down where you could pick on the freight elevator kiosk a party member and actually choose their inventory there. So we were trying to like really integrate party members into that hangar experience. But on both of these, where we ended up is needing to remove it, just again, get the release done. But also, I think we realized that there's like some more design considerations around the experience of security and permissions, and party membership isn't always the right fit to answer some of those questions anyways. So there's definitely some design work to do there as far as like the experience and how you attribute or revoke certain kind of rights in your hangar or to other players. But we do want to allow that general kind of flow where you can have your friends there that you're playing with, be it in a party or in a group or an org or whatever, and then have a way to spawn your ship in there. Additionally, the ATC did not really support this pattern very well. And it's because the ATC is an old system that was originally written with Port Olisar in mind, and just some landing pads of Port Olisar. That was the original implementation of ATC. So this whole idea of like even hangars is kind of alien to that system, let alone that multiple people could be in a hangar. And we've kind of had
that ATC coming back and being in a complete about it.
To build that into it, but it has some fundamental concepts like this thing called a permission token that don't really make sense in that world, which is why we're reworking some of the implementations to essentially, actually, this is kind of getting at like one of the core things that we're going to do is separate out from ATC hangar management as a concept. And ATC is going to become a simpler system that all it deals with is requests to land and exit. And so it's really just governing the entryways to the hangars, and that's it. And then have a separate system for hangar management for ships and all that. And included in that can be the idea of like, how do you handle different situations and corner cases around multiple ships, including multiple ships from multiple players.
How much?
Yeah, like
How
how
much do you
about
hate?
like Echo said in chat? How about some org stuff, man? Weren't they were talking about that like fairly. Maybe that's something that we'll see at CitizenCon, actually. Because they were very adamant about the fact that they are working on something org-related towards the beginning of this year. But who knows? Who knows? This stuff just like goes in one window and out the other. And maybe it wasn't right for the year.
ATC now? Can be real.
It knows what it did.
I'm pretty sure that ATC has been a part of the PU since it was first introduced in late November, early December 2015. I mean, it is when you say, oh, it's an old system, it is literally the oldest system of the PU. I'm not entirely certain even the folks who made it originally are even still with the.
It's such a pain.
They're not.
Yeah, they're not. So it was. It's like what we say with the old MFDs and stuff. It was good for its time and it served its thing for its time. But I think everybody is in agreement, both player and developer alike at this point, that we need a new, more robust service to replace it.
Yeah. And to be fair to that system, like it wasn't really designed with this in mind, right? So we've been pushing it, but we just have to break it at this point.
Yeah, org stuff is probably post 4.0.
We need to be more ambitious for their breaking of it.
Yeah, I'm realizing this is probably not the kind of conversation you'd see it in the promotional material for any other game development. Are they talking about how much they hate a game feature? I'm like, yeah, it's We recognize the same thing you do. We're all in the same boat. It needs an update right now. So that is being spec'd out, and that work is being assigned out as we speak. There's no ETA on it because, like I said, it's still early days and that stuff. But it's
early days.
I'm not gonna I can't sit here and pretend like it's the greatest thing ever. I hate
No,
it.
I mean, every time I see a report of players saying or QA finding like a door not opening, I feel it in my bones.
Yeah. Yeah, what was it? Rhino Separath 1972 says ATC has stolen millions from me.
Yes.
Yep. No.
ATC is definitely, it's on that short list of worst things in the game.
Honestly, we should just. I hope there's like a permanent prisoner in Kleishner once we replace it, and we just name him ATC, and he's just like, I used to do good. We were talking about vehicle spawning in different hangars. Is spawning vehicles from the cargo elevator still planned? I think we mentioned it in one of those early ISCs and whatever, and we haven't heard much about it since it was removed.
Absolutely. It's still a thing that we want to do. Now that we've had a bit more time, I think we're also
They don't rebuild the game every 2 years. That you might have missed that. He's saying that this system that they're talking about, ATC, is 9 years old. There are a few different systems like that cause the game to be super unstable. ATC is one of them. The transit system is one of them. Before this, like something like the star map was kind of like that. We had the same star map since 2017. And there are a couple other things that are like that. So there are things that definitely do get redone, like the cargo, for instance. The cargo decks are kind of a waste, but specifically this was about something that is so incredibly old that it's entirely outdated, and they've been waiting until server meshing in order to redo it, which is why they're finally starting to talk more about it. Considering
that experience a little bit more as far as like how that works, and also potentially supporting things like the Atlas, but definitely it's a thing that's going to come. Yeah, it's definitely coming.
Okay. Can we have an option to remove or disable the alarm in the hangar every time a ship is called?
I don't know about that. It's not a thing that we've talked about or I've heard even feedback on. But one thing I'll say is we are looking at ways to make it faster, that whole loop, because we want to make getting ships like a quicker experience. Like I think at this point people have enjoyed the pomp and circumstance of getting these ships. It's a really cool thing when you do it. But of course, with anything, you do it enough times, and
yes,
you kind of just want to get your ship right. So we're looking at potentially some ways where you're getting, let's say, like a Titan or something like out of an XL hangar. It feels kind of absurd, like the giant experience that unfolds for you over the period of time it takes.
Right.
So we're looking at, for example, maybe we can like preset the loading platform height, or maybe adjust some timings to make it faster, so you don't have to wait quite as long, but without changing some of the fundamental elements of that experience. We still want it to feel big and important, and have that pomp and circumstance, have it feel somewhat epic, but where it makes sense, have the ability to like have that time not as long for the smaller requests. I don't know that we'll outright disable the sound there. Well, but again, if there's lots of feedback on that point, maybe
some people just don't like loud alarms blaring at them all the time. Like, my car doesn't make alarm sounds when I call it up. It's actually quite nice. It says, hello, thank you for using the video dash cam, or whatever the freaking hell it's. So what, this is Tomato, what does that thing say? It's very annoying. It says it every time. But I think we can turn it off. So there's that.
I want to make a suggestion. Some of the best things in Star Citizen came from my ideas. That's not true. Eventually, we have to make some kind of, you mentioned it before, some kind of hangar manager, a thing, especially when they start adding the customizable rooms and stuff like this. In the hangar manager, there should be like a couple of default ringtones listed in there, just like when you get a new Motorola phone or whatever, and you can just set it so that you can change the alarm sound. The alarm sound can sound like a French police car or whatever. You just different sounds so that people can change
Gangnam
it
Style.
once in a while.
Every time.
Okay, we'll take that into consideration. Thank you.
I don't
Nokia
think
tone.
he's really going to take that into consideration, chat. I think chat's shining me on.
I would love to hear some blaring bagpipes every time I call a ship up.
All right, so a lot of this is focused on hangars and stuff like this. There is a series of vehicles that are kind of out there on the left there, the whole series. Talk to us about what the end goal for this. What is the experience loading and unloading a whole series ship supposed to be like?
Well, I mean, it's obviously what we have now is I would say tier 0 implementation.
Oop.
We wanted to get something in for the hulls that was unique because it's a unique ship in the game. It can't land with the spindles extended, and it's big. It's epic, and we wanted the cargo loading for this ship and the series beyond that to feel like it made sense for the cargo trading at that scale, and in particular have that visual be like something that was like compelling. And so we wanted to make that cargo loading in and out like feel like something that was like physically like building up and reducing on the ship. However, obviously it's just doing this like popping in thing, and then also it doesn't support any manual loading. So in the nearer term, we are looking at adding support for manual loading for the hull series and any other ship that might need to dock for cargo support. And I'm not going to say like any particular release or anything, but like absolutely we're looking at bolstering the support for those ships, or not just bolstering, but creating the support for those for manual loading at those loading areas on the exterior of the stations, and actually adding to them and having potentially multiple. We're considering different ways to make the throughput on that system make sense, both to allow for multiplayer. And
we have a trailer that shows us, yeah? Like, this is how it's supposed to play out. Okay, I think that song gets me copyright trouble. Like, you're supposed to be able to basically just have a bunch of Argos in your group. I don't think anybody ever wants to do this as a solo, but in your group, you have people with Argo ships, with nomads, with whatever has a tractor beam, basically just moving the stuff onto the grids here over time. And then you launch and you go away. I would hope that's how it's supposed to play, and we should have the external cargo elevators, which they talked about, I think, in this patch or this video.
Direct access from your hangar to the cargo deck, and that's where you can buy your commodities or sell them, and then you can return right away into your instance hangar and then go off on your trip. From there you can also access the external freight elevators to easily load your whole seas, and so we've made this gameplay looks much less tiring in Pyro.
And
yeah, so I think that they obviously are going to have those in Stanton, but I wonder if we'll ever actually see AI ships flying around loading those. That's the plan. That's supposedly the end goal. It just feels so far away, you know?
Put on that system makes sense, both to allow for multiplayer and ships using tractor beams to help optimize that loading time. And I think that will be a really big, like, meaningful change. Beyond that, obviously, we still plan on doing a better implementation of the automatic loading for the whole series, be it NPCs or drones. I think that probably is going to be later because it's more of like a visual experience and less of like a gameplay experience, whereas like the manual loading would be a really big, meaningful change from like the actual in-game experience for the players. So
as long as we can manually load a whole sea, I think that's on its own a big part of org gameplay and just groups in general.
We have now.
Bluesmink, you're asking a question about the missions. That's a question for the mission team, not for Chad. Where was that? H Lander 1337 says, "Is this the SCL live that announces Pyro is coming out?" Yes, Pyro is coming out eventually.
Dude, we've heard that on so many Star Citizen lives. Like, when was the first time we heard that Pyro is coming out?
It's ready.
You don't have to tell me. It's 2019.
Heard it here and everywhere else. What's the current status of hover trolleys? Are there still plans to give players this or another method to move multiple cargo boxes around locations at once?
Yeah, give me that.
Yes. So hover trolleys, another thing that was sacrificed to the release gods. In particular, the hover trolleys have some new physics around their behavior, and they were being pretty wonky, I'll put it like that, as far as the actual like attachment onto the hover trolley, not with the attachment, but how the hovering dealt with it. So like you would suddenly have this attachment and like the thing would kind of like sway around and sometimes like violently flip over or something. So there's some physics issues with it that need to get sorted. And also there's some questions about quite how to integrate it into the game loop as far as, you know, how you get them, or you know, is that something that you buy, or can you find them in the world, et cetera, et cetera. So we took a step back from that to focus on getting the release out the door, but it's not forgotten. They are going to come back once we've kind of smoothed out the implementation and the physics problems, and then also pinned down exactly like how we want players to use them and where they are in the game.
Okay, see, now this is key because I feel like the cargo trolleys need to be able to carry more than just like 4 SCU boxes. Like I should be able to carry at least 20 something SCU, probably more than that, like 30 something SCU on the hover trolleys if it's going to be really useful. Because for the most part, if I'm using a hover trolley, I want to be able to make a single trip with it. Right, the entire point of the hover trolley should be that if I'm loading a small to medium-sized ship, then I am decreasing the trips that I need to make from freight elevator to ship by at least half, if not more. The one time they showed it to us, I feel like there just wasn't enough cargo on the trolley itself. That was here. Like those look like 1 SCU boxes, right? So that's 6 SCU that thing's carrying, if I'm not mistaken. In my opinion, that just doesn't seem like enough. Like you should be able to stack or something at least. This especially if you're talking about a star lifter like they are here. Dude, boost that up. Let me stack it up a little bit more. At least 18 SCU, come on. That's just not enough. In chat, Space Game Bro, you said that the server meshing test failed at all levels. I thought it ran fairly well at 350 players. That's at least what I was hearing from folks. I would need to, because I was making a video under the impression that it was running okay at 350 players. Aren't these 8 SCU? Are they? I don't know. They don't look that big. No, 8 SCU is much bigger than this. 350 was doing okay. Burks was getting kicked off half the time. Same for Mike. At just 350 players, they were getting kicked off. I'm getting different, because I've seen videos of people playing. These are 8 SCU boxes? Okay, cool. You're saying that people were getting kicked off while playing. Was that at 1,000 players or was that at 350 players? Because you were there live and it didn't work. People were having tons of issues. All right, I'm seeing a lot of 350 was working. Expat Brats in chat, you're saying that it was working. I talked to 10 pound 42. He generally is the person I go to for technical coverage. He said it was working. 600 and higher were having issues. I've heard that, and I can understand that. But Space Game is saying that people who said it worked at 350 are gaslighting, and that it failed at every level. And I just that doesn't track with what I've been hearing. They said they tested multiple different configs at the same time, so there could be outliers. Okay. Ollie 43 had it working? Maybe Burks and Mike were in bad servers? Or bad shards? I don't know. Alright, now somebody's saying Burks was working. Oh, God, how am I supposed to make a video?
Toes.
This is why I should have done the test myself. Just go off what CIG said and what you saw. I didn't really see much, to be honest. I watched a little bit of it. To be honest, I do wish I had gotten some of my own footage doing that. But I don't know, as long as it's running the same as the game is right now, I would say that's pretty solid. Because they still don't have the actual reworks going in for the transit system and stuff. So like, I would say ignoring things like the train or elevator stuff not working, if the game itself was working, that's good. Obviously player movement wasn't being tracked as well. But if like people were able to fly around and do stuff, that seems like it was good. Monitoring tools were likely causing desync, so even at 350, push of a button was 3 to 6 seconds. Huh, okay. Not amazingly better than 1 to 100 we have now. Honestly, I don't expect it to run better. In my mind, if given the way that the server meshing is supposed to work, this is a push for stability in the game, right? So if the game is running the same way now, or the same way with, let's say, 350 players on 4 servers, compared to one server with 100 players, if it's actually running, I see that as a gate to stabilize the game more. Because as we're talking about here, the server meshing allows them to do refactors. It allows them to focus on more of the small things that have existed on the old backend since now. So I wouldn't necessarily say 4.0 is going to be more stable. I hope it's going to be the same stability, but it shows a focus on getting to a more stable game, in my opinion. So if they can actually get something working with server mesh environment, whether it's 1,000 players, 350 players, 200 players, whatever it is, as long as the environment itself is server meshed, that's what seems to be the most important thing to me. This is about getting data and finding the bottlenecks, not to give a good player experience. It's always about us. 600 was a chore to get anywhere. Not sure if it was input lag or just the number of people trying to use all the same stuff. Global was on fire, but you pulled your ship, bought components, and launched from Oris into space during the 6 out of 1,000 part. Yeah, okay. So, like, from what I'm getting from chat, it was reasonable at 350. And basically above that, it was starting to fall apart. But as long as there was some success in the server meshed environment, that's a good sign in my eyes. Like, I was already wondering if they were going to try and up the player count or just focus on having the actual situation be more stable. I wasn't really thinking that 4.0 itself would have a big player count boost. I thought that 4.0 would mainly be kind of like 318. They just want the same game to run on a new back end, but perform the same, you know? Which obviously 318 didn't. They had to tidy some stuff up for 319, but that was the goal. It wasn't necessarily the goal, wasn't to expand the game experience and make a big difference you notice right when you log in. But maybe they are going to try and do that with 4.0. Maybe they're going to try and up the player count somewhat significantly. Toes! Either way, we got to go way beyond 350. So, is there any video proof of this 350 success? Look at 10 Pound 42's video. He did a video on it. But yeah, I think whatever they do get, They've got a long way to go past that. But I would say just running the game on a server mesh environment is a good first step. All right, back to the actual topic at hand.
Implementation and like the physics problems, and then also pin down exactly like how we want players to use them and where they are in the game. So yeah, it's still coming. I will, to kind of, I will say there are, beyond the hover trolleys, there are other things in addition that we're always looking at as far as like figuring out how to make the game loop for moving cargo better. And certainly I think in mass is certainly like a thing that now that we have manual loading in the game, we have more experience with it. It's clearly like there's like this interesting point where if you're not dealing with the largest boxes in the game, some like combinations of medium to small boxes can be cumbersome. So it's definitely like a thing that we're aware of, and there's, I think, going to be continued
hover trolleys, dude. Yeah, I really
new things like the upcoming Atlas, which is coming in 3.24.1, which is in testing on the PTU. A bunch of people asking me,
was it not live by the time this video went out? I thought it was. I thought this was. Man, when did 3.24.1 go out? Expat tries to make fun of machinima video. Also, great machinima-ist, right?
How much the pledge will cost? I don't know. I'm not in those meetings. We've been talking a lot about...
The patch came out that day? Okay.
This says, how will paying a fee to auto-load our cargo work? Isn't that...
I'm not sure I understand, because like you pay a fee to auto-load now?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a weird question. I thought that's pretty much the thing. We'll skip ahead.
Wait,
hey, we'll get to
no. There's a lot that could be answered there, because we have this picture. Where is it? This is a design. Yeah, I would love for them to talk about this. Where the heck is that picture? Here we go. No, wrong one. This one. This kind of implies. And we've looked at this a couple times. This kind of implies that you could pay more to have a faster load time. And I would really love to hear if that's still in the plans, because I think that would make a big difference to a lot of people if they knew they had the ability to change how the auto loading works based on what their priority is, whether it's time or money. Like sometimes you're cool with waiting 20 minutes to load something because you got work to do. You got other things to do. Maybe you got to take a step away from the computer or something. Other times, maybe you just want to pay a little bit extra money and get that stuff loaded as quickly as possible. And I think that could have been a good chance for them to answer something about this. Bummer that they did not.
We'll get out a little.
I mean, maybe I can answer a question they didn't ask.
Sure.
Which is auto loading always going to work the way that it does now?
Sure.
The answer is we're going to build on that. Right now, auto loading is built into the commodity trading experience, in part because that was the quickest way that we could do it. I think we'll always want to have that because it's convenient in order to just make those decisions when you're doing trading. However, there are times when it would be convenient to auto load things that aren't necessarily part of a transaction or after a transaction.
Like mission cargo can't be auto-loaded. Right?
Mission cargo, but also items in general that you have. Maybe you want to load those into the ship. And so a full auto-loading experience is a feature that we're currently looking at as far as making it to where you can just have whole sets of stuff. If you just don't want to touch the freight elevator, right? You just like don't like it, that's fine. We're looking at having an experience for you to where you can say like, okay, I want this arrangement of stuff, and as long as it fits into the cargo grids on the ship, then it'll move them around. And now that we've
oh my god, this is probably bliss to some people's ears. There are a lot of comments online that are still like, why can't I just pay to have this stuff loaded? And it's like, well, you can. And I realize that there are the missions they don't allow, but now he's confirming that in the missions you can, and even your own items. That's kind of cool. Like if you bought a bunch of guns for your orc and you just want them loaded to your ship, that'd be nice. That'd be a nice convenience to pay for.
Where the cargo grids support so many different items, that means that there's a lot more opportunity to make that work. Of course, there'll be a small fee associated with it, but it will, I think, support, it's kind of a bigger solution to, instead of just like solving it specifically for mission items. It's something that you can do more generally. And then also, we talked about small vehicles, right? Ground vehicles.
Wait, what?
Getting those into your
What do you mean by their entire game is built ground up from Lumberyard? They started building the game before Lumberyard even existed, no? When was Lumberyard created? Wasn't that like 2016? Yeah, Lumberyard didn't even get created until 2016. How could they have built it from the ground up with Lumberyard if they started building it beforehand? I think you mean CryEngine? Not Lumberyard? Lumberyard comes from CryEngine, Star Engine comes from CryEngine, but they're not really the same. They didn't really transition from CryEngine. They just kind of used the AWS functionality that's included in Lumberyard, right? But like, they branched off like 7 or 8 years ago. Thought the entire game was a mod of New World. Oh, that would be that would be funny. Like Star Citizen's just New World in space. No, they've changed this a lot. I actually might have the bookmark for that around here somewhere. Oh god, there's too many bookmarks in it. This goes back. Goes way back. You could probably look it up though. Engine changes from CryEngine. I think they posted it on Spectrum at some point. All the ways that this might be part of the list. But I don't know. I think it's kind of similar to like Gamebryo engine. Like this is technically a game engine from 2003, and like you could say that all of the new games that come out for Bethesda are made on Gamebryo engine, but they're not, because Gamebryo ended up getting forked off into the Creation engine. And I think there's a lot of game engines that are like that. Like the Blam engine, I think, ended up becoming Slipspace, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. I actually don't know. They might have started this one from scratch. Slipspace engine origins. I feel like invented by a team. Okay. This is lore. Built on top of the previous Blam engine. There's definitely still coded foundation from Blam. I feel like a lot of engines in the industry are like that. Like, you could technically say that they're the engine from 15, 20 years ago, but they're like basically their own engines because of how much they've been changed. Like Unreal Engine 5 is probably a lot different from what it is, right? Yeah, Lumberyard was CryEngine, modified by Amazon. Star Engine's CryEngine, modified by CIG. I feel like it's semantics at some point. Amazon's clone was at basically the same version SC was on, so transitioning was apparently extremely quick. Whole mesh woes is because they are trying to engineer around the limits of current database they are using, which is the second database they had to use. First it was iCache, then it was Entity Graph. I think the database is the hardest part of this game. Valve's source engine comes from Quake, right? And isn't Rage somewhere in there too? Like, where does the Rage engine come from? Okay, Rage was created by, like, from scratch by Rockstar. That's right. So that has nothing to do, right? Because source is Valve. Dude, there's so many, it's so confusing. Frostbite, Snowdrop, source, creation, all the things. Your microwave is CryEngine, modified by Panasonic. They depreciated lumberyard in 2021. Okay. Dude, that's some good cooking though. If you're making food on CryEngine, that's good looking food.
Shit. Well, that would be a solution, right? To if you didn't want to, drive it out yourself.
No, not just spawning.
Yeah, a lot of people
ground
make their
vehicle
own
cargo,
engines.
but spawning a ground vehicle in a cargo crate that can then.
Well, I'm saying like you could have the ship stowed, and then request to have the vehicle loaded into like the ground vehicle
nice.
loaded into your vehicle. Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds like a key detail.
A cargo crate that can then.
Well, I'm saying like you could have the ship stowed, and then request to have the vehicle loaded into like the ground vehicle
nice.
loaded into your vehicle. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be great.
Will the search bar accept actual item names in the future and not just the internal identifier?
Right now, I mean, it's using the what we call the lock string. So I mean, it does, but there's the problem is there's various kinds of data associated with these items that are in different places, and what we haven't done is really built that out. But like it does use the localized item name. But there are other kinds of fields and stuff that it could be built out. In fact, one of the bugs that we had when we first added it is that it was just using the lock name and not the localized name, and it would make it really confusing because some things are really close to the actual end string and some things just aren't at all, and you would search for certain stuff and it wouldn't find them, and the reason is because it was searching the lock ID.
7-month membership anniversary. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. 7-month membership milestone. Nothing else mattered until I joined. Appreciate you being in chat all this time, and especially through such a big time of your life. I hope things are going well for you guys. Thank you for being here.
But not the localized name, but that's not the case anymore. But there are other kinds of fields that it's not searching on, and sometimes I think to make that a little bit confusing, sometimes there's different strings shown in different UI. So like for example, the shop UI might use like a different string for the purchasable display from like the item ports editing and stuff like that. So more to be done, but it is using the localized name.
There's a localized name and a lock name.
Lock ID. So like the localized name is like if you're playing, in a certain localization.
Yeah.
On the client,
you see the English version or the Spanish version, or whatever.
Exactly.
Is lock ID, is lock and lock ID short for localization?
John Locke?
Yes. So that's sorry. There's some.
So there's a localization and a lock ID, which is also short for localization.
Yes, but like the way to think of it is like a lock ID is a single identifier for something that will be localized, right? So we have to have some hook, some way to reference a string that has a variation for all the different languages. So that hook, that identifier, is what we call a lock ID.
Gotcha.
So it might be like if I have like a mug, right? It might be mug black 1 jellyfish because there's a jellyfish on it, right? But then the actual localized string that the players would see would, some
Jellyfish mug.
Yeah, jellyfish mug. But then, you'd have a different one in German, a different in Spanish, et cetera, et cetera. So that lock ID is what in code and just like the systems normally pass around, because it's something that's understood both by the server and the client. And if you change your localization at runtime, it's something that it's consistent. It's also it's a reference. It's not like a unstructured data as a string. Yeah. I could go on more, but yeah, so that's basically it, which is just more of an identifier that then gets localized. However, when you search, you want to search on the localized version, and that means that on the client needs to say when we do a search, here's the lock ID, but here's the locale, here's the localization that you're going to use, and then on the back end, it needs to use that for the string parsing. And we actually have a different database that it searches on that has a different localization on each, because that's the only way that you can make it work. You have to have you search on different partitions of the data based on the localization.
Too complicated. Just read my mind and know what I'm looking for and bring it up for me. That's all I want.
I get you. Sometimes I ask questions for the community, sometimes I ask questions for me. That was a question for me. And now I have to go fight Jens Lind. That's unfortunate.
What's up, Rukin? Dude, you can haul my cargo, man.
Do not work particularly well on the freight elevators. For example, mining bags. What's being done to resolve those?
Oh my God, the mining bags is such a pain. Like, that's something that we should have had years ago at this point. Being able to trade mining bags out between the different, like, I just want to be able to take something somebody mined and go sell it. Is that so hard? Or refine it? I mean, yes, the answer is probably yes, but it really kills the ability to do bigger mining operations. Like, just, it hurts. Bastin, I know that you're grabbing your face right now because I know you're into that, dude. Rukin, you can oh, you can ring my bell. That's just like, you can haul my cargo. Sorry.
Great question. Unfortunately, another thing that got cut. This one's in particular, it hurt me because I made the packing and the attachment behavior, and the system, the packing and arrangement works, but there's one bug I'll get to in a second that didn't. And unfortunately, because most of the items work, another thing that was sacrificed to the release gods, which
wow, the release gods suck.
Like
terrible gods.
I want it to be good because I like to be proud of my work. But the issue in particular with those, if you allow me to get a little bit technical for a moment, is the pivot. So for things like cargo boxes, the pivot is on the bottom in the center. And whenever I originally wrote the packing system way back for the whole C, the only thing that we were putting into the cargo grades at that time were the cargo boxes. I knew that more things were coming, so the packing system itself can expect any kinds of dimensions and handles multiple orientations, but the pivot was something that I just didn't have time to generalize. I had to just essentially kind of like hard code it to expect the pivot in a certain place on the item. And the technical challenge there is you might say, well, I'm holding the item. How do you not know where the pivot is? The problem is when you're doing things like calling stuff up from a freight elevator, you don't have the item. The entity isn't spawned. You don't have the geometry for it. You can't directly access the pivot. So you have to have some way to know where it would be without loading like the skeleton and deriving it, which would be incredibly slow. So what we have to do is like essentially like kind of bake that data out into a data set that could be read from an asynchronous persistence query or based on the class data. So that's the work to be done here. It won't take too long, and it's possible it comes in, very, very soon. But that's essentially it. Is like the reason is the mining bags and these things, their pivots are in a different place than most of the other items in the game. And the system isn't yet expecting that the pivot might be somewhere else than where most of the other items pivots are. And for that reason, the way that it rotates around and the way that it orients itself on the cargo grid is just wrong for that particular thing, which particularly for the mining bags suck because they're situated in a way that actually puts them through the freight elevator. And sometimes when you detach, they actually drop down, which is awful. So like definitely aware of it. But yeah, fix is going to be forthcoming.
If you can get technical. Okay, last two questions, Chad. You're almost at the end, and then you can go and start your day proper.
Dude, it sucks because I feel like the mining bags and the way that we can use them together is just, it's such a pain. Like, these are the kind of things that make org gameplay not very fun. Yeah, the background's very Chad energy. I was like such a Chad thing back there. But I don't think I've ever seen that barbell move. All right, Chad, you actually using that, or you just put it back in the same place, huh? Which one is it? That's a nice cage though. I need one of those. But yeah, we need better mining bag functionality. How many people think that they're going to change the mining bags overall? You think they'll stick with them? Because they're kind of like every single mining vehicle that comes out will have to use them, and they don't have those bags in the Orion. So will the Orion just have a completely separate system? or what? How's that gonna work? Did we ever do the D&D game? No, we didn't. After that initial time that we tried to do it, we were never able to reschedule it. I don't know if we will be able to. I don't know if we'll be able to get it working. That was already difficult to make happen with the timing, and yeah, that was yeah. It's a bummer that we didn't get to do that. I hope we get to. He 3D printed the first prototype ATLS. Wow, they really went far in 900 years. They need to store a copy of the freight object dimensions apparently separately so they can query it without loading the whole model. But then give me ownership. That's driving me nuts. The fact that we don't have a proper item ownership system in this game yet, and an ability for people to pass things back and forth and like be like, hey, this is yours now. Do what you will with it. It's becoming very annoying. And I'm just going to go ahead and chalk that up to it's got to happen after server meshing. Why not? Of course. Think they'll fix mining bags because technically the mining loop is broken and it seems they know it. It's broken? Why is that? Orion does full refining internally and just pops out the final materials in SCU boxes. That would be interesting if they said you just you cannot get the mining stuff from there. Like if you wanted to mine externally or refine externally somewhere else, you're not able to at all. Everything after mesh. Everything after mesh, man. That's just freaking meshed potatoes. Everything else comes after. Realistically though, real talk. I do feel like the 4.0 branch is where they actually start building the game as it's meant to be. Whereas the stuff that we've just had up until now has been so focused on just keeping a playable environment to keep us all busy while they develop stuff. It feels like they're, from things like in-game rewards to localized gameplay to an actual set of locations to like some level of direction cohesively, it seems like they're starting to build more of a game environment now than just a testing environment, which is nice. And hopefully that means that org tools are right around the corner, but unfortunately that corner is just, it's a circle. You're always looking at that corner, you know? Can't give a valid certified geek certificate until you've played D&D. I have played D&D before, just not on stream. Me and Mrs. Tomato played with my sister. Squadron 42, you mean server meshing, you mean 4.0. Isn't it wild that all those things actually are lining up to kind of happen at the same time? Too many moving pieces, too many hopes and plans. You believe they need to stabilize and fix Stanton, then use that as the basis for future star systems, instead of trying to build everything at once. Like they could build more systems at the same time. Would love to set up an SE reskin D&D campaign for the org. Isn't there a... Oh god, you know what I was about to say? I was about to say something really stupid. I was about to say, isn't there a cyberpunk version of D&D? Oh god. Sorry. I'm ashamed of that one, even having that thought. Dark Pix, thank you for the sub, by the way, with the Prime. Appreciate you. Zach Priest just confirmed NPC spawning outside of bunkers is a new feature in 324.1. Nice. Now they just need to use those turrets.
You're almost at the end, and then you can go and start your day proper. Will we be able to spawn multiple ships at once in the same hangar?
Yes.
Yay!
Got any more? How do we envision that?
2077, the board game. Infrarodas, what's up, dude? Good to see you. Thanks for popping in. Can you make a Halo-style FPS? Can they make a Halo-style FPS? I mean, they have FPS in the game. I wouldn't say it's Halo-style. Oh, I see what you mean. God dang it.
So yeah, I mean, definitely it's a thing that we're looking at on the design side. And so I don't want to give like complete answers because that's something that might change a little bit, but in short, we want it to be to where you can spawn multiple ships, especially in these XL hangars where you have these huge platforms, and certainly you have the room. There's just some thought that has to go into all these different permutations. Let's say you have a ship on the platform and you want to get another ship. Right now, the way the system works is if you get a different ship, we're going to steal the first one. But you don't always want to do that. How as a player do you express that, or how do you understand that what's going to happen?
Better ASOP.
Do you have any control over the arrangement of it, et cetera, et cetera? So those are things that are getting like pinned down on the design side. But the goal itself that we want to be able to spawn multiple and give players more control over that is something that we're going to do.
Okay. And last question is, will we, or have you ever considered the ability to name our cargo boxes so that we'll know what was in them when we move stuff around?
Or color. Let me color them at least.
Another thing that is on the design side we're still working on. I remember talking about this like a year and a half ago about like how we could handle this, because before this release, we added the inventory containers at the end of last year, but we were working on it, before then, especially on the design side. So this is something that we've known about for some time, and those boxes all look the same. So if you have lots of different boxes, how do you know what's in them? And we've had lots of ideas so far as tinting and labeling and naming, et cetera, et cetera. And then also potentially wanting that to be something that you could maybe search on in the freight elevator kiosk, right? I'm not going to commit to one particular solution there because, as I said, there's still some design work that needs to be done to like make the final call about like how that's going to work, and then we would do the actual implementation. But it is a thing that we want to address for sure.
Yeah. Because like all the boxes look the same. Basically, you could be transporting diamonds or human poop, and you don't know which box it's in.
You did it. How do you feel?
Dude, Fable's coming out next year.
Great.
Mark my words.
Definitely feel great now that the release is out. 0.1 is coming soon. I think that there's a lot of good things coming. I also want to just thank all the players for working with us on this release. I know, especially whenever it originally came out, it was like pretty rocky. There was some real surprises that happened when we went from PTU to live. We tried real hard to go from that state to something that's more playable. And I think 0.1 is going to be an even bigger jump there. So I just want to thank everyone for having so much fun and helping us with this release. It's been a big push. And I'm happy that we finally got here.
Big ol' push.
Well, thanks, Chad. That was Chad McKinney. I don't remember what his title. What's your title, Chad?
Senior lead gameplay.
Senior lead gameplay engineer.
Star Chad.
Been in the cargo trenches for more than the last year. So thank you for taking the time. This will probably be the last show. We've done 6 or 7 shows on cargo and hangars in this just for this release. So this will probably be the last one. We'll see you for whatever the next thing is. Take care, Chad.
But also, what are you working on next, dude? Like we don't even know where what he's moving on to from that. Star Chad.
You can leave. I got to do some housekeeping. Stuff. So, folks, that's it. That's the show.
You didn't know his name was actually Chad?
Probably going to be the last SCL for a while. There won't be an SCL next week. That if you've noticed or if you joined late in the show, you've seen this absolute horror show right here. I'll be down getting my face scan next Friday to do that and stuff. So there's no show next week, and then we're into the big CitizenCon hustle there. We've only got.
You mean LOL hustle? He says.
One episode of ISC left. That'll be last week, and then ISC will go on hiatus until after CitizenCon. So there might be an SCL or 1 or 2 that we squeeze in there every once in a while, depending on availability and stuff like this. But for the most part, we're here at the threshold of a hiatus. So
the next 3 weeks are going to be so dead. Oh my God, the community is going to eat itself alive. Oh God. Oh boy, this is gonna be fun, especially because it sounds like he said there's no more ISCs after this week, right? So it's just gonna be engineering and then dropped it. Oh boy.
Thank you for watching. I do have a couple announcements though. There are multiple occasions coming up where you can meet CIG folks in person. This is always the biggest and most social time of year here. So TwitchCon in San Diego is next week. There is a Bar Citizen on Friday, September 20th.
Rycops, you're in chemo, dude?
Garage, Kitchen, and Bar. You can go, there's a comm link on the website, the Bar Citizen World Tour. You can get the specific information, but that is next Friday, where you'll be able to meet some staff that are down there visiting for TwitchCon. There is also, in about a month's time, there is Bar Citizen Week here, here and around. Basically, Bar Citizens all week long in celebration of CitizenCon. They're happening in cities and locations all around the world. You can check out the barcitizen.sc website or barcit.io/2952.
Toes.
He didn't think I was going to read that, but I read that. I read a URL because I was born in the 70s and I still do that. So you can find all kinds of
All
new
the babies in the 70s were just reading URLs to fall asleep. I've heard it.
And the last one, Atmo Esports, our old friends there, are throwing a major event, the largest event that they've ever thrown, right next door. They're literally on the other. There's a wall here, and then there's a wall there, and then there's a building where this event happens. The biggest event. It's a huge venue with actual theater-style scenes. The largest esports thing that they've done there. That is called Enter Atmosphere. You can check out the.
Okay, the name is 10 out of 10. That was such a great name they came up with because they call themselves Atmo, and then the theater that they're going to be in is a sphere, so they just call it the Atmosphere. Ah, gotcha. That's great stuff. Yo, Rycops, I hope that's going well for you, dude. Chemo ain't easy from what I hear. Cheers to you, buddy. Sending all the love. I hope your process goes well and smooth, and you're doing all right.
Atmo Esports website for that. I think it's atmo.sc. There's also going to be a sizable CIG contingent that are visiting there. That takes place the Sunday after CitizenCon. The second day of CitizenCon, but after CitizenCon ends. So it's like the unofficial post party there. Chris Roberts will be there, as well as a bunch of other people. There's a big social area with a bar and stuff, and they'll be hanging out there to meet people and to converse with people and stuff like that, and sign autographs, take pictures, all that stuff like that. So it's your chance to meet Chris Roberts and a whole bunch of folks. That is not a Star Citizen event. It is our friends at Atmo Esports, but we're going to hang out with them because we like them a lot.
Good people.
So that's your chance. If you're interested and you haven't picked up tickets for that, you can check that out on their website. As far as how much or whatever, I don't know. I just get the details for where it is. And if I'm not entirely dead after 2 solid days of running CitizenCon, I'll probably be there too. If anybody who remembers me at the after party for CitizenCon last year, I will be on zombie mode. So just be gentle with me, approach me slowly. Indirect eyesight, don't come at me from the sides or behind because I'll spook easily. I will not know where I am, but I will be there, along with all kinds of other CIG staff.
Tiptoe up from the front.
That's the housekeeping. Thanks for watching. Yeah, that's all I got. Bye. Sorry for this.
All right. So, first of all, I got to get to Satisfactory during that hiatus, my friend. That's, gosh. Although, we do have quite a bit to go over. Leading up to CitizenCon, predictions and all that jazz. I'm probably going to do a Citizen Central next Saturday. We'll be talking about, we'll have some folks on to talk about expectations and what kind of stuff people are thinking we're going to see during CitizenCon, because there's a lot of possibilities. Lots of possibilities. So what do you guys think? Is cargo the end of Star Citizen? Is it over? Has it died? Actually, what did you think of this show? I think there were a lot of answers in there that were good, informative stuff. But also a lot of stuff that was just, gives you that same old, oh, okay, so it's coming later kind of feeling. Things like, when can we call up vehicles in the cargo elevator? When can we customize our cargo elevator? Stuff like that. It's nice that they talked about auto-loading for commodities and items. I think that's going to make a lot of people more happy. The fact that you could basically play the game without ever touching a freight elevator. That's important to a lot of people. That is, I think, one of the big things that people thought cargo was going to ruin the game with, was just, oh, I always have to manually load stuff. we are looking at a time when you never have to load stuff, which is a good call. What they plan to do sounds fun for you. Factorio is dropping a huge space age update. Somebody was talking about that a couple weeks ago in chat. Did you see they were talking about another server meshing test this week? No, where is that? This week? This weekend? Have they put out that message yet? Oh, they put out the Q&A for this. Guess we could pull that up real quick and look into that. The dev tracker, let's see what they have here. Increased demand for 32 SCU crate drugs. Org shared inventories. Ooh, I like that. What's Chad talking about there? Waka messages? Thank you for the kind words. No, I want more. Oh, if you watch the last 2 SCU lives on Cargo, I discussed this, but TLDR, we need a better permission system, and for orgs, we need to have an in-game org system. Both of those are planned, including our inventory integration. Okay, hey, all right, remember that part where Jared was like, well, we're going to talk more about inventory stuff in an event coming up in a few weeks, and I was like, oh, it's Halloween. Yeah, you fucking idiots. It's not Halloween, it's CitizenCon. Big surprise, and I bet you they'll talk about org stuff. I bet you they're going to talk about org stuff at CitCon. That would be fan-freaking-tastic. Holy crap, that would be great. It's so difficult to do stuff org-related without the systems that we need. What else is there? How is it possible to slam into a planet during quantum drive? Org shared inventories. Decouple mode request. I don't really see anything else. I don't see anything else related to the cargo though. Just org shared inventory stuff. Yeah, I didn't actually mean it was really Halloween stuff. To you, this all the same old hopes and dreams with little actual bug fixes and update new things anytime soon. Hey man, if you're looking for bug fixes, you want to look somewhere else. Right now, it's all about features. Essie's like a teenager, so it's just going through one heck of an awkward puberty. Dude, longest puberty ever. Oh yeah, here is, I guess, what you guys were talking about with Zach Priest talking about the NPCs coming through. Good sign if they have those tests more regularly. We probably need a dozen before it's ready for live. 3 months, man. If they run a new test every week for 3 months, then I could see it. I could see them doing it, but it probably costs a lot to keep doing that. There's a bunch of FPS AI improvements coming in that'll allow us to make some really cool, unique content with all the things we currently have. Spawning improvements I'm most excited for, as it'll allow us more, to make bespoke templates that can be applied to areas, meaning high quality, handcrafted content combined with it being scalable. So, sources tell me that AI in this game should be getting a lot better in terms of our encounters, because they're taking a more purpose-built approach to just make AI that reacts to you and acts based on you, rather than make AI that is systemic. So like, think something you would see in a normal shooter as opposed to something like from Red Dead Redemption 2. Not super exciting to hear, but it sounds like that should definitely help with creating more AI encounters in more places. They just won't be as systemic. I don't know if that's something that's going to be temporary. I don't even know if that's completely true. Again, sources, but it sounds like they are taking on more responsibility and making sure that we can encounter AI more regularly. So this might be part of it. The whole getting AI outside of bunker spit is, it could be a part of that. So what was the statement about the test? They're going to do a server meshing test this Wednesday? What's my suggestion about ground vehicles in 324? Stay away from hover vehicles. They're death traps. They will kill you. Testing chat channel. Am I even allowed on there? Testing chat channel. Currently planning on any new PTU releases. This is now, what is it like? Posted in here somewhere? This is too much scrolling for me. What's up, ethnification? Dude, Rukin, I'll see you later, dude. Thank you for stopping by, man. Have a wonderful work day. And a good coffee or something. Maybe like coffee, maybe tea. Could be coffee, could be tea. Whichever one. What am I looking for here? They need a mix of AI, some to look busy and some to actually be living life. Could agree with you there. Some hero AI. Oh, ETF test chat. I don't think I'm allowed to put that up on a stream. Am I? Right, the Atlas Q&A. All right. So this is where we'll get to the real talk about cargo and stuff. Let's see what they have to say. So, plenty of things to be said about this item. I think this could have been a very good first opportunity for them to really show how they're trying to push things into game and not just into store. And missed opportunity. But we have so many of those in Star Citizen, I could make a book. So we'll move past that and we'll just talk about the thing itself. Does it provide any environmental protection? I'm pretty sure that's a no. No environmental protection. There are currently no restrictions on what you can wear in the pilot seat. However, this isn't a long-term intent, which is the case for all vehicles. That's a key detail, actually. That's another one of those things that new players are probably going to find to piss them off quite a bit when it happens. But this is, just remember, like, these are the kinds of little messages they leave here and there that do clue you in on where they're going. They are going to restrict what you can wear when you're sitting in a pilot seat. Keep that in mind. Dayalk, long-time watcher, first-time chat. Welcome to the chat, buddy. It's good times. You need a nap already, Luna? It's almost time. Just a couple more minutes. Does the Atlas provide any armor for my character? Does it influence my hitbox? Oh, good question. The Atlas is invulnerable, but any bullets that hit the player will deal the same damage as they usually would. We will be following up in a future release to include damage, visual damage effects, and destruction, so the Atlas won't be invulnerable forever. So it'll probably function with Maelstrom. Does the Atlas come with any storage? No. Is it equipped with bright headlights to help you work at night? That is a no. However, they intend to add lights to the Atlas in a future update. How are you going to have an exosuit without lights? How the... What? Are there any exchangeable vehicle components? Paints are supported, but vehicle components and tractor beam are not customizable. Plans to update the Atlas to make the use of the resource network feature. Yeah, likely adding a battery that needs to be physically swapped out to replace. We talked about this during my gameplay with Avocado. This is probably a huge drawback to the thing. Is keeping this powered and maintained is actually going to be another step in owning it. And it might just not be worth it for somebody who's just casually hauling around boxes. Like if you have a C2, or sorry, a C1, and you're doing like a couple dozen cargo at a time, something like this is probably not worth it, you know? But if you were, you know, regularly doing some large boxes and stuff like that, then maybe you'd need more of that. Yeah, it's a good drawback to it. And it makes sense. Something like this definitely needs to have a battery or a reactor of some sort. How fast does it move? We can kind of already see that in the game. Can it jump? Does it reduce my fall damage? It cannot jump. No fall damage is taken currently because it's invulnerable. How does it behave in EVA? We saw that. We we fell from one ship to the other, and it worked surprisingly well. That was nice. Does the Atlas tractor beam gameplay mechanic differ from handheld tractor beams? Okay, here we go. As a dedicated cargo loader, the tractor beam automatically moves its target adjacent to its user, making it easier to view the surroundings. A destination preview hologram is then displayed in the environment wherever the user aims, with color coding indicating a cargo grid or surface placement. The tractor beam's target is moved to the hologram's location automatically when the fire button is pressed. This provides faster cargo movement and faster cargo grid selection. I feel like it should be a hold down the mouse button, but I might be sorely wrong about that, because that does get a little annoying on the finger. Secondary fire mode allows the tractor beam to be thrown instead of placed. Okay, I didn't know that. A charge functionality increases the throw strength the longer the input is held. When targeting ships or ground vehicles, typical tractor beam functionality is employed instead of allowing smaller upturned vehicles to be rotated and set down. Okay. I didn't know you could charge and throw things. That's fun. I guess that's what people have been doing with bombs, huh? Can you injure other players with them? It does not move fast enough to cause damage. It can kill them if it lands on top of them in normal gravity. Hurling cargo containers at others is not advised, as it can lead to any number of injuries or even death. That sounds like the warning label that you would find on the vehicle itself. Not super helpful, but obvious. You can't use FPS items. Due to the nature of the new cargo loading, tractor beam combined efforts are not possible for moving boxes, but targeted ships and vehicles will combine the forces of multiple beams. Does it count as a vehicle? Yes, it does, from what I've seen. Can you use passenger elevators, stroll through landing zones, or use public transportation? I've seen people get this into elevators for sure. There's usually wear on the coolers, and those coolers don't have much health. Yeah, if this thing has a battery, it might need a cooler too. Resource network is going to be a huge balancing modifier for a lot of this kind of stuff. The Rock also, yes, would need the same drawbacks of resource network. The Rock, the Mule, any vehicle, really. Anything, even weapons, even armor. Armor is going to be powered in the future. And so it'll need some kind of power source occasionally, depending on the type of armor you have. Anything else interesting here? How do I transport from A to B if I don't have a vehicle with an onboard garage? You're gonna need a ship. Can I lift the Atlas with the handheld tractor beam tool? Yes. Does it use batteries or fuel? We intend to have a replaceable battery using the resource network in the future, okay? Recent changes to the multi-tool and dedicated tractor beams. With the launch of the Atlas and its new tractor beam type, is the current balance of these tractor beams representative of the game moving forward, or do you have other changes planned? We have plans to balance further. The multi-tool and dedicated tractor beams were always meant to be the least powerful tractor beams in the game to allow puzzle solving, small cargo movement, and cooperative play. Remember at the beginning of this when we were looking at my video and I was like, yeah, the multi-tool's gonna only lift up to 4 SCU. Okay, thank God I'm not designing this game, right? Because they decided to go further than that. But it will only be able to lift 16 SCU boxes. In the future, it'll only be able to lift 8. So I was close. I said 4, and they brought it to 8. With 2, though, you can combine and lift 16. Okay. On-foot dedicated tractor beams. Max of a 32 right now. In the future, it'll be 16, and past that, it'll be 32 when combined. Atlas-wise, 32 right now. In the future, it'll be 32. Honestly, this is basically what I was saying. If you have a ship that's like the size of a Cutlass or a Spirit or anything really like a Mercury Star Runner, anything that is, I would say, your first like three different progressive cargo hauling upgrades, Maybe once you're getting up to something like the Zeus, you'd start wanting to lift like a 16 SCU box. But for the most part, it doesn't even seem like you're going to need a dedicated tractor beam to fill your ship. Granted, you know, it'll work better, it'll be faster. But the Atlas isn't something you're going to probably need for a lot of these smaller ships. It'll be interesting to see how it balances out over time. Right now, it's new. Everybody wants to use one. It feels like it speeds things up very quickly. The design of the game needs to catch up to the fact that they've now added this and they've got to redesign, or not redesign, but they have to edit the way all the tractor beams interact with each other and start to finalize more of like the speeds and weights that they can lift things at. But 2-3 years down the line, it's going to be interesting to see how people choose different equipment for the cargo loading based on what they're doing and what ships they're using. Yeah, I'm going to grab one in game probably, but then again, I don't really load ships that big. I'm a C1 boy. You hope that the beams don't just not work. You hope the lower beam, the greater the struggle, to the point that a medium beam could slowly drag something along the ground but not lift it. More systemic and less like a invisible wall to the functionality. I did recently, if you guys didn't know, I have a gameplay channel. And I did upload some gameplay where, I guess if you're on the stream, you probably saw this. But I'll drop it here. Maybe give a subscribe to the channel. We're going to start uploading more gameplay there shortly. But in that video, we tested out how this thing balances out with somebody who's just using a tractor beam. And I think it works really well when you have somebody outside of an Atlas and somebody in an Atlas working together. If you're loading 1 SCU boxes from a Vulture into a C1, you can see the desire for it, as it's so much faster than using the wheel on the mouse. And then, of course, large ships. 32 SCU boxes are not so great because the grid wants to auto-rotate the box. That's true. But if you're in a space environment, this thing might be a little clunky to use. Because once you accidentally walk out of a ship, you're kind of done for, right? Best to use a max lift with the 32 SUs on hauling missions. YouTube is actually how you found the Twitch channel. Hey! Wait, which YouTube? The main channel or the gameplay channel? You roleplayed their beam changes and it feels more realistic, like the ideas. That's why I was always hoping that this would be based on mass and weight rather than volume. But I can see how basing it on weight would really piss some people off, because then you'd get real confused very quickly if you just ordered some boxes and suddenly you couldn't lift them because they were a little heavier than the other boxes. So much faster with the multi-tools. It's like a dream in the C2. I'm feeling like from chat, outside of the way this thing was delivered in terms of pricing and stuff, people sound like they are enjoying the way that cargo is going. And given Chad just confirmed that auto-loading will always be available to people no matter what it is they're loading, so they can avoid the idea of manual loading, it sounds like this is becoming the cargo loading that people want to see, at least in chat. I know a lot of people don't. Just some balancing and details that they got to figure out. Great item, great addition, best in a while. Price was the problem, and access via Pay Store. Yeah, launching this in the game would have probably made this whole last week be a lot more enjoyable. You wish it fit in the reclaimer? Wish it folded up to store or something? Aha! That's how the mule wins. I think that they're really going to have to focus on making sure that the auto loading function is enough that people who do manual load don't feel like they're getting taken for a ride, you know? Because the manual loading is meant to be a very integral part of the game, but the auto loading is meant to allow people to still play the game casually. And I think that balance is going to be pretty important, just to make sure the game functions as they want and still allows for people to play the game a little bit more easily. Hated manual loading before the Atlas. I hope they can get the regular tractor beams into a place that people are still enjoying it. Because I think they've got a good thing going. I know people don't like Beam Citizen, but I think with the amount of diversity that we're seeing between these, between the Atlas, the Mule, the hover trolleys, all of it feels like it's starting to really create a game within a game with the cargo hauling, which is good. It's where we need to head. The cutter that the Reclaimer is supposed to get could salvage a variant of the Atlas. Yeah, it could be a variant of the Atlas. Absolutely. I think, yeah, the Beam Citizen makes sense, especially because it's not just the beams that you're doing, you know? The beams are just a single component of that. When it comes to engineering, you might use the beam to repair something or charge and drain, but you also then have power management on the screen. You have the fuses in real life. You have the fires that you put out with the extinguisher. The beam should be a part of each game loop, not the entirety of it. And I think they're going to do the same sort of thing with salvage, the same sort of thing. Like salvage needs salvage charges. You need to be able to crunch things with Maelstrom. And then you also need a beam to scrape holes and stuff. With medical, you need a beam to heal people, but maybe you also need the science side of medical where you're creating the stuff that you that people can take to get healed, whatever you call it, potions or whatever. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for them to continue to build on the gameplay outside of just the beams they're using. You like the direction of the cargo, but sadly, and as usual, many use cases are just clunky, buggy, half-baked, and overall the experience is disappointing. I feel you. I feel you. It'd be like that a little bit, but hopefully they can keep building on it and improving it and making it better. Thank you everybody for joining me for this. We's all done today. I hope you all had a good time, learned something, got some entertainment out of it. I'm gonna send you all over to my man Detox. He is looks like he's in the game doing some gameplay. He dropped by earlier. Go say hi, drop the toes in chat. Give him all the toes. Toes Gang raid. I wanna see those in chat. I'm watching. Let's inundate him with the signs. Thank you again, everybody, for being here. We'll be back on Wednesday with some gameplay, most likely. And should be good times. Osens, everybody. Thanks for being here. I think I said that like 5 times now, so I'm all done saying that. Have a wonderful day. Eat something you love. Yeah, toes like in feets. It's emotes. We got toes emotes. It's a long story. It's the end of tomatoes, so. Yeah, I'll actually be playing on Wednesday. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. All right, Al. Have a good one. Eat something you love. Do something you like. Give somebody a hug. And take care of yourselves. I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.